Okay, good morning, everybody. Half a day, and welcome to the 14th annual 2011 PA workshop. My name is Dr. Hetty Justice. I'm the Cultural Resources Manager for Count Laws. I see a lot of the same usual suspects, but a few new faces as well. And so before we get started, I have just a few housekeeping items before I hand it over for opening remarks. So the only exit out of this room is the door you came through. Follow the coffee corridor out to the left, and there's multiple exits. The parking lot, or the door you probably came through this morning, or even closer to this space outside the rooms, take a left and a left. Bathrooms, once you leave the coffee corridor, there are plenty of signage. You follow the front of the office space to the very end, and there's women's and men's bathrooms just past that. We have refreshments, the courtesy of Kent Law staff. So please, if you haven't already, please enjoy some of that on the breaks. We have 2 comfort breaks scheduled roughly about an hour in and then another hour after that. And of course, that's a time where we really can have a moment to really network and talk about some of these key issues on the side. Let's see, anything else? I think that's all. Charmaine, if you could start the slideshow. Next slide. Actually, it's slide 3, I think. Okay, so this is, as usual, this is a 4-hour workshop. Again, we don't have a tour plan this year, but we can talk more about that at the end when we speak about next year's meeting. Maybe we have some ideas of what might be ready to be visited at that point. As usual, this is a hybrid workshop. We have our in-person group as well as some key players on a Teams call. It is not live streamed, but I will go ahead and put it out there that it is being video recorded. This is so that we can share it with the public, which we will post it. And also, for the first time, we're trying a Teams automated transcript, and that's just to better help us to facilitate the meeting minutes that we also put out after the meetings. We will have a set of action items going in the parking lot by my colleague Vanessa over here. So as we're going through the meeting, if there's items that need to be discussed further, we'll put them in the parking lot. Next slide. Okay, so we are ready for the opening remarks. We're going to start with our DoD senior leadership and DoD civilians. We also have a few civilian participants on the DoD side on the Teams call. We also have ACHP on the Teams call. And of course, we'll come back to the table for our other signatories, which would include the SHPO's office. Invited signatories, we were hoping to get National Park Service. I'm not sure if they've called in. Excellent. So we have National Park Service on the phone, and then of course, Department of Chamorro Affairs and the Guam Preservation Trust. So without further ado, I will open it up to the Rear Admiral to give our opening remarks.
Thank you. It is great to be with you this morning. And I think your name is really cool too.
Like
I was like, I thought I was going to pick a name like Hetty Justice. Like that's awesome. I could be Dr. Justice. That's amazing.
I joke that's the only reason why I finished the PhD.
I give you an A+ right there just for that. So it's great to be with you all this morning. For my first one of these, I'll stay through opening remarks and let you guys get to work. I found that as I become more senior, things change when I'm in the room. Sometimes for the better, most of the time for the worse. And so I'll get out of your way and go forward. I'll tell you what. I'll frame my comments a couple of ways. I think that one of the things in coming into this job, and I took over on the 29th of May last year, so coming up on about a year, with no installation background. All my background was in doing things completely outside of this portfolio. So it's been a learning journey for me. And one of the things that I am proudest of is to watch how the Department of War does everything we can to do business the right way. And when it comes to environmental protection, when it comes to historical protection, when it comes to those things, it is endearing to me as a citizen, as a patriot, as a person that believes in our country and our way of life, to watch us do things the right way. And in a way that, to be quite honest with you, it costs more and it takes longer, but we choose to do it the right way, right? And so that, as Americans, that's a big difference, as we compete for influence and thoughts and ideas in the Western Pacific. This part of it matters. What I've also learned in my time is that if you have high ideals, if you have things you're striving for, you will inevitably fall short. And so I was talking with Patrick about that as we started off today. So as much as we put these programmatic agreements in place, And on Friday, Patrick is going to go talk to people about the 2026 programmatic agreement. We should all thank him and maybe have a GoFundMe for the therapy. Perhaps he's going to point out to the public for this. I'll be the first to contribute. So thanks for that, for being the face of this, because a lot of people just don't understand what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. But as much as we've striven for the high ideal, especially the public access program, admittedly here at JRM we've fallen short. And so I'll talk about that just a little bit. In coming into the job, a couple of things have happened, at least one or two of them you're aware of by following the news. The second, you are not. The first is that federal hiring and just government employment became really challenging last year. For anybody that watched a casual headline about Doge to other things, keeping people in jobs was really hard, and then hiring people into jobs became even harder. And so throughout, I think my staff right now is manned at about 65%. And so it's not as though there's a bunch of extra people running around JRM. We are actively working across a number of fronts to just get back to normal as an organization and as a staff. That particularly impacted our programs here. And just in terms of people going away and then not being able to actively and aggressively hire into those positions. At the same time, internally to the Navy, they began a reorganization of the structures here. I know when you guys look up, you see Joint Regent Marianas, and then there's NAFAC and all that. So what the Navy decided to do is take Joint Regent Marianas, and NAFAC used to work for me, and across the Navy they went like this. And so in doing so, it created a lot of interesting wrinkles. I was talking about those with Commander Holmes earlier today. But one of the things in that is just the environmental portfolio and the historical preservation portfolio. And so there's a number of areas there that, because of the split, impacted what we're trying to do here. So my commitment to you, and nothing that I didn't talk about Patrick earlier today, is we are meeting internally from a JRM team once a month on this, and we won't be happy until we've achieved some new steady state. It won't be perfect, but it'll be better than where we are. And we'll determine, and so once a month I'm meeting with the team until we get to the point that I'm happy. But I'm not going to just let my own personal happiness be the barometer or the measure by which we stop work. It'll be working with Patrick on some level of periodic basis, whether we bring the other PAs into a forum like this. I'm open to what you guys decide is what's best, but I want to make sure that internally we get our house in order a little bit better. You have my personal commitment that we'll get there. And then I also want to share our progress with you and ask you to hold us accountable, because if we're happy inside this building, but you are unhappy outside of the building, then we haven't done what we need to do. As I started, I am proud of the work that we do. I'm proud of the partnerships. I'm honored to work alongside you all. But we have some work to do internally. We got the right team. We'll get after it. And of all the problems I've been asked to solve in the Navy, this is not the hardest one. So I'm confident that we'll be able to get there. But we owe you what our end state looks like, and we owe you how soon we expect to achieve that, and we owe you periodic updates along that path. So I think my team gave me some great talking points, but I think that's about it. For my team, is there anything else that you would ask me to say here? I was laughing. I had to go to DC to testify in a federal trial, and I can track my heart rate as I do that. And so I was trying to figure out if I was more nervous about the federal trial or the fact that what I'm saying is going to be posted somewhere. I don't know, it's not the same. But again, it is great to be with you all today. Honored to be a part of the process, dissatisfied with where we are, but anxious to what this will look like a year from now, because I know we'll be in a better place. So thank you. Who's that? Is there somebody after me, or is that it? Oh, look at you. This is awesome. I got coffee.
So I can't follow that. I can't follow that, sir, and I shouldn't. All I would say is, as the CO Camp Lies, is our duty and responsibility to implement this agreement to the fullest, and we're looking forward to showing you what we did and continue to do so in the future. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. We do have a representative of JRM in the house. So.
The main representative just spoke.
He's going to echo what I said.
Yeah.
Exactly. On the civilian side.
They'll probably say they're great comments. Go ahead.
Can't make that any better. I'm just happy to be here in support, and yes, backing everything that the Admiral said. I'm gonna be working with you more closely. But of course, I'm supporting everything that the Admiral said. Nothing to add. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And when I say I'm meeting monthly on this, the person I meet with monthly is Aaron and a couple of others. So that task, that's why he's warm and uncomfortable right now.
Great. Commander Holmes.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Commander Brian Holmes, Public Works Officer for Marine Corps Base Camp Laws. So my predecessor, Commander Vic Wong, was in the seat last year. So taking over for him and really coming to know the portfolio, to borrow the Admiral's term, because it is a wide portfolio of actions, concerns, and equities that we have up at Camp Laws. Just both inheriting the land, the real estate that we do, and also what it takes to build a new base, first one in 50 years for the Marine Corps, and to do that the right way. It's a staggering effort. So fortunately, I have a wonderful right-hand man here, Mr. Al Borja, who oversees all those various cultural resources, natural resources. You have all the forestry, the threatened and endangered species, all that. So I'm really blessed to have a wonderful team. The Admiral mentioned our issues with manning. I feel that I might be the outlier, that Al might say he has some vacancies, but I would say that we have a very well, high-functioning environmental team at Camp Laws, and that's a testament to Al's leadership and his management of that team. So there's things that keep me up at night at Camp Laws. In general, the things that Al and his team oversee are not on that list. So I'm very thankful and look forward to hearing all the progress and the goals that we're going to set today. And thank you. Glad to be here.
Good morning, everybody. Albert Borja, Environmental Director at Camp Laws. Just want to make a quick note that probably one of the few who, perhaps Joe beat me, but who've attended most of the annual workshop since the very beginning. So it's really a privilege and really the highlight of my career to be working with our cultural resources counterparts and essentially just taking care of Guam's heritage. So thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be of service throughout the years. And every time we have a challenge that comes up, we're able to get at it. So I'm looking forward to meeting those challenges. Thank you.
Shall we go to the virtual DoD?
We can go to ACHP. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So online we have Alexis Clark with us once again. Alexis, would you like to give any opening remarks?
Yeah, hi. Nice to be here. My director, Jamie Leushinger, won't be joining us today. She's just got back from a conference and just very exhausted. But so just as an update, as people know, I previously worked with the Navy Marine Corps. I've since transitioned to be the Department of Veterans Affairs liaison. But since we don't have an agency assignment for the other DoD agencies, I volunteered to attend tonight. So again, happy to be here.
It's great to have you, Alexis. You have some of that institutional knowledge working with us over the last few years, receiving our notifications and such. So I'm very happy to have you on the line. We also have Jennifer Hardy on the line from headquarters. Jennifer, would you like to give any opening remarks?
Hi. Sorry, I had to find my mute button.
No worries.
This is Jen Hardy. I'm the Cultural Resources Program Manager at NAVFAC headquarters. I'm excited to hear about the program this year. I think, and I've said this before, this workshop is sets a standard for the Cultural Resources Program across the Navy. We are trying to model this in other places because it's been such a great success, and that's a big credit to Al and Hetty and their team. I'm just really glad to be able to participate, and headquarters is perfectly happy to sit back and support in any way we can to keep this meeting going and to keep supporting our coworkers out there in Guam. Thanks, everybody.
Great. And do we have any other DoD civilians online that want to give any opening remarks? No? Okay. We could pivot to National Park Service. They're on the line.
Yeah, they're on.
Okay, Good afternoon here. Elaine Jackson Rotondo. I manage the Cultural Resources and Science Division out of our San Francisco regional office. Barbara Alberti is also participating today. Unfortunately, I will only be able to continue participation for another 2 hours or so. I've been involved in these meetings for several years, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Elaine. And apologies, Patrick, you outrank National Park Service in the line of, of business. So,
No worries.
so we'll hand it off to the SHPO.
Okay. Afternoon. Good morning, everybody. I'm Patrick Lujan, State Historic Preservation Officer. I was in the office in 08 to 10, so I have a little bit of prints on this particular PA. Took a 9-year hiatus and came back in 19. Jumped right back into the thick of the build-up of Camp Blas, working with Admiral Shanaina.
Shoshana.
Yeah, and then everyone else since then, and it's been a work in progress. It doesn't look the same as it was in 2011, but with Al being the stable piece here, we've worked through a lot of things, and I would say it's more positive than negative. But as any agreement, there's always things that fall through the cracks, and I think that the drive and the initiative of the team it's always been there to try and make things work. So I'm appreciative of that. Overall, with Department of War, Defense, or whatever you want to call it now, you guys still own 1/3 of the island. And as a steward of the island from a cultural and historic perspective, obviously there's a big target on whoever owns that much of property. And so I'm appreciative, Admiral, that we have a special, unique relationship in terms of having a direct contact. I'm glad you're able to, take my call or my email and hold meetings right away. I don't take that lightly, and I appreciate your openness, at least to those channels, and really just being frank and pulling me to the side this morning and saying, hey, this is not working. How can we fix it? So I appreciate that, with your openness on that, and just continue to look forward to working with your team, and however this development, when the dust settles with the change, it's anticipated. Almost every year there's change in personnel when I'm dealing with your team. And I always, usually is the first thing is, okay, who's doing what now? Right? And if it's not changing, if the military doesn't change, then it's probably not moving. Nevertheless, there's in this certain structure, the patience is not going to be as lengthy as it used to be. Only because we built so much already to this point where we can't let it fall, and we had something that was working. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. And if we can get to that threshold and even better, then that's much better reflection for your department moving forward. So I look forward to today and all the details that we're going to go over.
Thanks, Pedro.
John Peterson. I first came to Guam in 2007 at the University of Guam, and I was involved in the early 2008 PA discussions and so forth. And I have to say, I've been coming back now to serve as liaison to the SHPO from the Navy. I've been really pleased to see that the divide between inside and outside the fence has really begun to melt. There's a lot of people like Al inside the fence now, and that's directing changes that are definitely positive for a military presence on Guam, I think. And certainly building collaboration and coordination inside and outside the fence. So good direction.
Thanks. It was funny, I was laughing sometimes, but it's interesting being here and reading stuff in the news, and so many times when I feel like somebody is frustrated with us. Sometimes I wish we could have like a ride-along program here at JRF, where you let people just show up and go to the meetings and those types of things, because I think they'd realize, like you said, that it's just good people trying to do the right thing, and if it was easy, then we wouldn't have anything to do during the day. So I appreciate your comments. Thanks.
Joe?
I would.
You just go ahead. Hafide, my name is Melvin Wapat Borja. I'm the president of the Department of Chamorro Affairs.
Joe Kinata. I look around the room and I feel old because I've been here since 2011, and every year I come to this meeting. And the first few years were really challenging. We hated each other because we had to do what we had to do. Not hate each other, but just hate the work that we have to do because of something else. And I think we've come a long way. It's been a long journey. There are so many people to thank, but this will be my last meeting. I will be retiring at the end. So it's been great. I'm going to miss everyone that's here, and I'm going to welcome the people that come and go. I hope that we continue to work with each other and not against each other. It is important. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, and congratulations on your retirement.
Oh.
Do you have like plans, or is it just gonna hang out?
All of the above.
As you should.
Yeah. But my heart's always with what I like to do. So that I'm not retiring from. I'm just retiring from the 8 to 5, and stuff like this.
Yeah. Understood.
When I grow up.
Yeah. And I, like you, when I look around the room these days, I feel very old as well.
Yeah.
I use very, you didn't know.
Great.
Anybody else? Maybe new members that this is anybody else first annual workshop that you've been to? Maybe we can introduce folks. Yeah.
Good morning, sir. I'm John Jeffries. I am the new counsel for Camp Laws, so I'm looking forward to participating today. I'm helping Colonel Marshall make sure that we're staying legally compliant with our responsibilities. And so I'm happy to be here and learn everything and meet everybody. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Admiral, sir, staff, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Major TJ Perna. I'm new to the Camp Laws environmental team, so I'm Al's deputy director at Camp Laws and environmental lead for the Marine Corps.
We met out in the field, right?
We did, yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Commander Christina Wiedemann. I'm the Public Affairs Officer here at Joint Region Marianas.
She's joining me tomorrow?
She is there to support. Well, joining is a strong word. That was cool. Well played. I just got you out of something.
Christine?
I'm Tanisha Law. I work for Colonel Marshall and Government and External Affairs, and also working with environmental team for anything that is required of the government.
And you're a bit of a fixture here too. How long have you been with us?
Since 2009 with the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, when it was first joined on program office.
She's awesome.
She seems it.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Balaja. I'm the acting public affairs officer for NATAC Marianas. So I will be relaying all of what happened today to our event.
I'm Dr. Kelly Marsh-Titan. I've been to a couple of these in the past. I think the one person, I know some of you individually, but the one person I recognize from former programmatic agreement or annual workshops is Al. I've known him for a real long time. But I'm now working in the Department of Chamorro Affairs at the Guam Museum and the Repository.
Show me. And Vanessa, this is Vanessa's first workshop with us, one of our archaeologists.
Good day, everyone. My name is Vanessa Guerrero. This is my first annual workshop, and I'm happy to be here.
And I'll introduce this young man. He's with me. This is Raymart Pantamayor, AKA Big Dog. So he's a historic preservation specialist. So he does field work, but he's so smart. I've got him doing other things, and so he's up for a different position. And I just need to introduce him to and expose him to this type of atmosphere. So welcome to Big Dog.
Okay. Anybody else online that has joined us before we move on?
We need Catherine Childs. She's from the DOD.
Hi, this is Catherine Childs. I just put in chat. I'm so sorry that I missed the original, but I'm with CNIC headquarters as the Environmental Planning Conservation Lead, and this is my first workshop, so really looking forward to participating, and thank you for the opportunity.
So when
Welcome.
it comes to administrative things, it goes from me at JRN to CNIC in DC, and they're the representative of the Chief of Naval Operations in the Cemetery. So everything environmental, everything administrative goes from me to CNIC up to senior leadership.
So we're explaining
It
to
gets worse, that's just
to SHPO about our new organization. So all of us cultural resources on the DoD side on island are now under CNIC, except for Naomi. She's still with NAVFAC Cryonics, but the rest of us are now under the CNIC.
Okay.
Okay. Well then, without further ado, we'll get going with this meeting.
And I'm just upstairs doing some things. If anyone needs me for any reason, by all means. But thanks for your leadership here. Thanks for everything we're doing, and look forward to continuing the conversation. And Al, it's good to see you again. It's funny when we do this. Oh, please, you guys understand. Except for you, Big Dog. I just want to give Al a shout out too. As I was getting ready for this and talking about, as I was learning about the different programmatic agreements and the 2026 one and this one, everybody says, well, the 2011 one does well because we have Al. So thanks. All right, you guys have a great session. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is our agenda. We've moved things a little bit around from previous years. So after we get through the previous action items and events from over the last year, we're going to dive straight into the public access program or plan, and then go from there. You can see we have 20-minute discussions that are built into 3 different discussion blocks, and of course the comfort breaks that will follow those. So we'll go ahead and move forward with our action items from last year. So these are the items that we wrote down in our parking lot, and we're just going to go one by one and give you the status of those particular points. So the place names project. So last year, Kyle Royden from Guam Preservation Trust, we asked if NAVFAC could get in touch with him on the place names project to incorporate their work into the Guam synthesis. And so I am here to report that that Carly, NAVFAC did connect with Kyle last year and gathered information and handed that off to the contractor. And we'll talk a little bit more about the status of Guam synthesis later on in the program. Number 2, address West Baño Walking Trail, and which would be with consultation with SHPO. Revisit the proposal for a nature walk trail. This was brought up last year as well. This will involve Navy Base Guam working with Park Service and SHPO's office. This would be in association with the Public Access Program, the PAP, which is currently on pause. But we'll get into that discussion as our first item of business for this year. Number 3, course of action for curation agreement. Explore using a cooperative agreement authority as an interim solution to begin transferring collections to the repository while the final GSA and fee schedule are negotiated. So per the Department of Navy Federal Preservation Officer, we got confirmation that a fee schedule is not required to start the work, so we can begin the work while we're still working out the fee schedule. And for fiscal year 26, Camp Laws is proposed to award a $50,000 cooperative agreement via the CSU network to address creation needs. We're going to focus on what we can, it's kind of like testing what we can do with 50 grand to get into the repository, and if we have any money left over, also would go towards prepping some of the inventory for future transfer. Curation fee schedule. Revisit the fee schedule to ensure a sustainable long-term solution for all parties. Again, it's not required to begin the work. However, we will discuss the development and current status in today's meeting later on in the third block of this meeting. Indigenous knowledge guidance. Follow up with the ACHP for new guidance on incorporating indigenous knowledge. Thus far, we consider the SHPO's office, Hmong Preservation Trust, Department of Chamorro Affairs, as representatives of the community, and we do engage when we can to gather this knowledge. We also, part of that is also giving equal treatment to traditional sites as historic sites in terms of eligibility and listing, and we're really heavy on the traditional side for listing, and we certainly make no difference in the time frame in terms of eligibility. But we will speak more on that later. The 2011 PA also we noted is an expanded opportunity, at least for these build-up projects, that we open it up to the community. So no matter what organization somebody's associated with or just a member of the public, it's their opportunity to raise any concerns they have when it comes to the cultural resources side and what may be affected by these build-up projects. Moving along, PAP, simplified simplified access. Provide information on PAP access, booking a tour, and plan for the expected increase in participants due to that promotional film that we watched at last year's meeting last May. We really, I think Joe was kind of making us a little nervous about this thought that once we put that out there, we were going to be flooded with people wanting to participate. And unfortunately, it was just a few weeks later that it was put on pause. Certainly is something to talk about early on in our program. Sharing these J755 analysis with the SHPO's office and the other signatories. This would be not just the osteological analysis, but the other reports. So the J755 reports are just currently being finalized. They have been reviewed, and we're preparing those to be delivered for SHPO review in the near future. And certainly when those are finalized, we will share those reports with our parties. And so those are our action items. If we have any questions you want to hit right away, or we could hold off for the discussion for this time block. Each of these are going to probably be discussed further along in the program. Okay. All right, next slide. Okay, good news stories. 2025 events. And now, it's always difficult because of the timing of this workshop. Now we're in May, so we're almost halfway through the year. That was the same time frame we had the meeting last year. So some of these we did report last year, but to kind of remind you of the 2025 accomplishments. So last January, Jassy Miller, soon to be Dr. Miller, we had a modification to our ARPA permit to include additional material from the Count Blas projects. She is earning her PhD for University of Hawaii Manoa. She's one of our first ARPA permits that we've approved, and her defense is scheduled in October. So hopefully by this time next year we'll get to announce that dissertation is completed, and maybe we have a chance to see what she has learned from our material. March 2025, that's when we had that informational fair pop-up at the Micronesia Mall, which was a real success. In September, we had potential World War II remains that were recovered from the J755 project, particularly HR2. Those were transferred to the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency for forensic testing. I do not have any status updates, but I'll probably follow up soon, see where they are in the line of being tested. October 2025, we had our second ritual for J755. These are remains that were identified in the lab. So we had the initial ritual the year before, and we thought we were good, but then we had some additional remains that were overlooked, or they were originally categorized as faunal, and with a harder look in the lab realized they were human. So those fragments were returned to us, and before those were placed into the muslin cloth and local artisan woven baskets, they were blessed. So we had that second ritual before that happened. Also in October, we had a visit from the government of Japan through the Consulate General of Japan, the Consulate General of Japan, and that was to go and visit some of the 2011 PA projects, Main Cantonment and J755, particularly to look at where the holdups have been, what has slowed the process, and certainly all of our findings in these areas was top of discussion. Now, as I said,
I'm sorry. So back to the Japanese visit.
Yes.
So what was their purpose?
They, I don't know if their sole purpose on island was this visit or if they were here for other business, but they wanted to visit, because some
was
of
that
our...
the jaywalk folks?
This is, no, that would be, there were some jaywalk people for the transfer, but the Japanese transfer, that was the year before. But no, this was, a lot of our projects for the Gold Up were funded by the government of Japan. So it was it was basically representatives of funding those projects that they wanted to see what their projects look like, have their eyes on it and hear about why they've been delayed for so many years, as many of them have been. And so visiting some of the human remains sites was a topic, and some of so that's what that visit was for. And then, I know this was for 2025 events, but like I said, we're already halfway through the year. So in March, we had a couple of outreach at the Anderson Elementary School. This was for their Tomorrow Month. They asked us to come speak to their elementary school classes. So I went and spoke to 700 students, one grade at a time. And then they also invited my team to come to their culture night and speak to them on Chamorro culture. They do incorporate Chamorro culture and language into their programs at the elementary school, so they were happy to have us there. In March, we also had a public tour. This was our effort that we could do in supporting the PAP. And so we had Vanessa take out a group from the Guam Community College. These are tourism students at the university. And they were visiting, in particular, the Sabanan Farang and Haputo Beach Village sites as part of their study program. And then just this few weeks ago, or last week maybe, we did a beach cleanup at the Tanguisam Beach, and this was after the super typhoon Senlaku, which washed up quite a bit of debris. That would be the Marines as well as the ED staff. And then in progress, we have another ARPA permit that we are working on with Chase Young. This will be for a master's thesis out of University of Hawaii Hilo, and he's in particular looking at lithic analysis out of the JSERS or 1D project. All right, any questions or concerns? Like I said, some of these items, I'm sorry, that was the last slide. Some of these items would be discussed further. I was just backing up. Okay, next slide. Okay, the public access program or the public access plan. Now, we moved this to the beginning so that it's not the white elephant in the room. This has been a contentious topic over the years. We were really seeing a lot of success leading up to last year. We're still hoping to reach that success again. As a reminder, last January, so a year ago, January, the PAP coordinator position was vacated. Shana was promoted, and so that position was vacated. She did speak to us last May on the current status at that time, and it was also supported by JRM between January and May. Unfortunately, that program was put on pause, and so we're here to discuss, kind of, I think we already have some understanding of some of the issues involved in terms of hiring and furloughs and things like this. So we're here today to discuss the pause and also the current status and the way forward. And so I don't know who wants to start this discussion. It's an open forum, but if there's anyone on our side or yours that want to start this discussion, we welcome that. I will give you the floor, Patrick.
Thank you. Yeah, this has become a contentious topic, and quite frankly, and I mentioned it to the Admiral this morning that it's not happy about it, and you know it's getting a F grade right now. We worked so hard to get to a position where we filled the role, and the people that was that's been here for a while know how difficult it was to get that position filled, only for it to have it stalled, right? And there's too many smart people in this department to figure this one out. Even if it's going to be an interim acting role, Frank Alec ran it for a little bit. At least to have something that says yes, we're open for business when it comes to this, right? There's so many restrictions to begin with, but to completely stop it or pause it is really not acceptable. So he knows it, the Admiral knows it. He says that it's, he agrees that I should be upset about it, and there's different options to get this done. And again, this is not just for Camp Blas, but the entirety of all the Navy properties that are on island. There's so much that you guys have on those properties that we can't leave that cut off from the public. So that's my initial statement. I've offered some suggestions and recommendations on how to fix it, and it's up to the team. He's given me his commitment that it's going to be fixed sooner than later. But I just needed to put that out there for the record.
Patrick, this is Jen Hardy at NAVFAC. Right before I logged on, I received a funding request for the public access program. So you should see relief very soon. I apologize that this has happened, but things have been crazy over the last year, and I know that's not an excuse, but we are working diligently to try to fix it. And like I said, it was about 20 minutes before I logged on, I got a request to approve some funding for the program. So hopefully that's good news, and so relief is coming sooner rather than later. Over.
Thank you, Jen. That is good news.
And this is Aaron Parker. Jen, that was our request. So I wasn't going to dig into the details, but yes, we are working, whether you see it or not, we are working to try to have a short-term and long-term solution. But and I know I'm new in this role. Sorry for the I don't think I actually said my name ever. This is Aaron Parker. I'm the acting environmental director for JRM. After this reorg, just stepped into the role. So. But yes, so we do have some actions that we're taking. You know that it's never fast enough. The situation never should have happened. But at least for me, this is what I stepped into, and I'm going to do the best I can. But I agree with the Admiral. I'm not happy about it. When I found out he's not happy about it, you're not happy about it, we're just going to move forward at the best speed that we can. What I don't want to do, however, is give you a bad product. So I don't want to just kind of pencil whip this and say, well, we have something, and then it's horrible. So I want to do something fast, and I want to fix it long term, but I don't want to give something that's of such poor quality that we also kind of destroy the reputation of what we built. So that's the only thing I want to be careful of. But yes, as Jen says, we're taking steps to try to get things moving.
Jen, this is Patrick. Do you have a timeline of when that would drop? If that's what is holding us back?
So I approve it today. I don't know if Catherine can speak to it a little better. It has to go through CNIC headquarters, and I think Lisa was ready to submit, which would release the money to the region, and then they'll have to work through their own internal systems for the hiring, but the money should be there somewhat quickly. I don't want to commit to you and be totally wrong and totally off base, but I would think that it would be fairly quickly. And it sounded like Aaron and Al have a pretty good plan to get things moving. Over.
Thank you.
Jen, that's my understanding as well. I believe that Lisa, just before this, I think we were all working on the same information, that Lisa had just sent money, so things should be moving, and yeah, as fast as our hiring process can go.
And that's a short-term solution. That's not going to solve a long-term problem, but it should get things back on their feet. And like I said, I want to, between me and Al, I mean, Al has the institutional knowledge, but we'll try to make sure it's not a bad product, that we don't open the doors and then we fumble everything because we're scrambling, trying to move too fast. But there is evidence. It's not just smoke and mirrors. Like we are trying to do a short-term solution.
And Patrick, also to let you know, Catherine and I both have been having the conversation here about that program and how important it is to Guam, and especially, the Navy's relationship with the local community, with your office, with Gov Guam. So we've really been raising the red flag here so that we can try to get more support for JRM in general for filling especially that position, but, the other vacancies that they've already talked about. Over.
Okay, thank you.
I think Mr. Joe.
Yes. I'm beyond unhappy. I'm disappointed because this has been going on since 2011. And I can't believe we got so many intelligent people around here. There are billions and billions of dollars that have been put into this. And I remember speaking, you can check the minutes, that I recommended to create a unit and not just hire one person. That's what happened. That person leaves, and you call it a pause. I hope there's a good long-term plan to this other than just hiring one person, because that person cannot handle an access program.
It was at least 2 FTEs worth of work, at least, minimum, and at a higher grade than what it was.
So, gosh, I'm leaving this seat, and I hope that things get much better, because it is quite disappointing. There's another issue again, that not necessarily issue, but another concern. Guam is going through this feasibility study, to designate the island as a national heritage area. And the question came about was, these heritage areas in the bays, how are we going to deal with that? Who do we see about that? They're aware that there's no access program. So I'm not too sure what Congress is going to say about that. But I hope that we get the ball rolling on this. Thank you.
Anything else on this matter? I certainly hope next year, of course, Joe won't be here to hear it, but you can see it on YouTube.
Yes.
I have
good news.
one little one to add, and that's, I'm looking at your pamphlet, right? And at the back, you have a website. We're going to talk about the CRI website when we get to that. Since you have a link for the public access plan and request, I do remember mentioning this probably 5 years ago. If we can simplify the application for access, because I myself tried to go through that process, and it is dug deep into your system. I mean, and I always referred back to the simplicity. At least I don't know how it is to apply to go tour the White House, but once upon a time in the previous administration, a second grader can click on and apply for a tour at the White House. Very elementary, very bold, very simple, and the vetting process was behind the scenes. You guys put it deep inside jrm.cmic.navy.mil/operations and management public access plan. That's what person out in the streets is gonna link on that. So again, part of this is inviting and enticing our people, making it simple to get here. They're not gonna go to this. So since we're just on the topic of public access plan, I reiterate that also has to be part of this, is the invitation and the accessibility, right? It's hard enough to get on base, and that's your job to figure that out for them. Make it easy for them to at least apply and be of interest to visit these places.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I clearly remember when I first had to face the music with this, and I had a meeting with the Undersecretary, Dr. Fennenstiel, and she asked that question, how can we coexist? And she said, we take care of your cultural sites very well. And my response to that was, you took care of it so well that we don't even know about it. And I hope that resonates with everyone here. You know, already generations have gone by, and we're still only working on trying to get an access program. It's embarrassing. It really is. You know, it's embarrassing because we on this end of the table are part of this. It's really embarrassing for me. You know, and I know it's probably not embarrassing for you because you come and you go. But we're still here. You know? And I think that we should really, really sit down and take this seriously. Really.
As a civilian on the side, not in uniform, I'll say it is embarrassing for us. I was here in 2013 to 2016. I came back on purpose because me and my wife like this place. So I can't speak for everybody who comes in and out, but I'll speak for myself that this is embarrassing. So I don't want to let that stand hang in the air, at least for me personally, that, you know, the moderate progress we've made since I was working with Al in 2016 is embarrassing.
Right.
The situation is embarrassing. I don't want to let that stand like as if like I said, just for me. It's embarrassing whether we come and go. I like this place. I serve your home. It's a part of I'd like to think it's a part of my home too, and I'll speak for myself. It's embarrassing.
Let's work together. Let's turn this thing around, and then of course we'll keep you guys.
Have you guys thought of perhaps contracting this to somebody that can do?
That's the funding that we discussed. It would, like I said, the long term would be getting the position back, but the funding would be for contract support or cooperative agreement support.
You know, if you can't create a unit, maybe contract a unit to do it. And you have organizations that would be willing to do something like this.
That's what the money's for.
Yeah. So Joe, you know, this will be like in the next couple of weeks, maybe. You know, I hope it doesn't stretch into months, but we do have some ideas. Third-party support is probably what we're gonna go with right now, and maybe we'll discover that maybe because this
Maybe
position,
that works.
yeah, maybe that
Yeah.
actually would be the best, posture, because, when we go with, like, let's say, a cooperative agreement with the University of Guam, maybe they have a cadre of interns, that is, well attuned to environmental, cultural preservation efforts. Our visit with Guam Community College was actually very enlightening for me, because their tourism program actually, certifies, essentially tour guides, right? So I learned that was one of the parts of their curriculum. So perhaps there is, maybe maybe we can make this an incubator for, like, the next, instead of just one public access program coordinator, we have, like you say, a unit of coordinators that, basically a lot of the nuts and bolts of this program are not really inherently governmental. So there might be,
Access issues.
yes,
but
perhaps,
outside of that,
yes. But outside of that, a lot of the mechanisms are really people being passionate about what they're talking about, and talking about the importance of these cultural sites. And I think our people, when I say our people, our folks from Guam, are going to be very much especially if they're studying towards that field, maybe more passionate towards that effort. So just a few thoughts.
Yeah, I've always, in my work, the job I do, I've always, always become inclusive. And I was hoping that the Department of Defense would be the same thing. My response to the undersecretary was, if you want us to coexist, it will be difficult, because your mission and our mission is so different. Your mission is to go to war. And I know there's so many other stuff under that to protect, this place, but initially that's your mission. War. Heck, the president changed your name. And our mission is to protect what is significant to us. So, does that answer the question of coexistence? And maybe this is where we start a new standard.
as a prior service member, I'd say actually my interpretation of going to war is not really the purpose is going to war, it's to protect what's important.
Right.
And if we have to fight to do that, it's a means. But
Going to war.
and this is just Aaron's interpretation, right, of the mission set. But even when I was in uniform, it was to protect. So there may be a difference of interpretation, but certainly for the people in the room, like you said, is a part of that. Part of protecting what's important is this. And again, this is my personal. I can't say that folks in DC share that interpretation, but I'll say for in this, I think for most of the people in this room, they share that we can't destroy what's important to protect what's important, and that's why you have this partnership in this room. And if we can express that to folks outside of this, outside of the island, to understand the community here, and that we do have to coexist, I think that'd be a powerful message.
Well, certainly it's not showing. Really. You guys been doing really great with archaeology, and of course because they're on top of it, but it's just, it's just not showing, and that's why you get a lot of pushbacks.
Agreed.
You have to. It's got to be done.
Agreed.
Yeah, we'll get at it, Joe. Yeah. I mean, you've heard our Admiral's personal commitment. We'll follow through.
Okay, and I think the next item was actually the discussion period, which this was the topic of discussion. There's some other things in the parking lot from last year that we'll be hitting later. So I think we'll go ahead and go into our first comfort break. So we're actually on schedule right now. So we have 10 minutes. Please partake in the coffee. We've got donuts, empanadas, and in 10 minutes at 25 after the hour, we'll reconvene for the updates on cultural resources. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene. The next block is on cultural resources updates.
That's one of the best things you don't have to worry about.
It's a lot to get through, so to respect the time, we're going to go ahead and move forward. So the next section is cultural resources management. If you could go to that slide, Charmaine. You having troubles? Keep going. Okay, here we are. So this year we kind of reorganized a little bit. Here you have these are the projects that we have had additional consultation with the SHPO's office beyond the PA memos. So these are the ones where we've had discoveries and burial treatment plans. And so here's just a run through by installation and installation component, the projects that we're going to give you updates on now. And we're also going to follow each of those areas with their burial treatment plans just to hit them right away while we're on the subject of that project. So we'll go ahead and move along with the first project being in the main cantonment. So J001B, that horizontal project we reported last time is complete. So now it's going to the vertical projects, right, in that footprint. And per the 2018 resolution agreement, we did have monitoring that was completed over a year ago. So in the blue on these slides, you're going to see some of the old news that we're reporting, just to kind of remind you where we're at with some of these things when it comes to the status of the construction and monitoring. The technical reports, I believe it was a 4-volume series, is currently being finalized and due for submission to SHPO's office soon. These have been reviewed, and so the contractor is just finalizing those reports now. We also have the memorial plaques and booklets. So booklets are part of this particular project. The same contractor is currently drafting those as well. And so we have not seen, we've seen the first draft of the plaque language, but we're asking for a rewrite, and when we're in a good place with that, we'll of course continue with our consultation with SHPO on those items. So moving along, that takes us to, next slide, to the burial treatment plan for this area. And so again, in the blue, it's just reminders of what we've done so far and where we're at with the project. Updates for 2025. We did submit the landscaping, the initial landscaping and plaque designs to the SHPO's office. Now this was just the initial, and so we owe you our finalized versions of that, which we hope to get to you in the very near future. This is being done under the P325 project. So this would be area D that we're talking about. And so we also wanted to note that
Where's that at? Where's area D there?
It's just across.
It's the burials across from the memorial.
It's abandoned fatting. Yeah.
On what HR 20?
So 11, 12, 20, 22, and 25.
That's area D.
That's area D. And so we've had, as you can see, we've had three rituals, one at HR1, and then we had a couple of rituals already. Those have already been reburied. The construction has started, but those areas have been fenced off and preserved. They are being monitored, so that fence installation was monitored. And then when they resume that work after we have agreement on the final landscaping, then that will start up as well. And it's Kleinfelder that's monitoring that. And so, you know, they're the ones who did the excavations, so we're happy that they're the ones that are actually monitoring the landscaping.
The fencing's going to stay?
The fencing is just temporary to protect it from the construction right now. And then part of that plan, we have permanent fencing that will go up, and we have gates for 2 sections. So that, you know, they're, as you remember before, they're a little bit apart from each other. So we have a gate and we have a plaque at each of those main locations.
Okay.
And we also wanted to note that part of that burial treatment plan, we We will be reburying fragments from around the area. These are non-burial sites where, additional small fragments were found. Those are still being planned. The vault is still empty at this moment, and we plan on doing that as a one-time event. So it's quite a bit to remove the lid to that vault. So we're trying to do it at a one-time event, and so that we will not be doing until all of the construction is completed. So we're looking at 2030. And we did consult with SHPA's office on that with concurrence back in March. Okay, so we can move on to the next project. That is the P325. And so we've already kind of hit some of this. This is the vertical project within that footprint of Area D. And so now they are doing their construction as we speak. And I believe I've already spoke on all of these points actually. So the construction contractor for P325 is responsible for the landscaping there and the monitoring. And again, that's Kleinfelder that's on the job. And they are due to start that landscaping starting in July. So we need to get those final plans to your office now. Okay. Moving along. So this is still main base. We have P187, this is the exclusion barrier south. This included, the construction was completed. We also had the monitoring completed in 2025 in November. There were no new discoveries in 2025, and all of the post-discovery fieldwork for all the discovery areas, the HR sites, was also all completed in 2025. And right now they are in the writing phase, so we have not received the drafts for those reports yet.
That's IA also?
That is Kleinfelder. Yeah. Okay, moving along. Okay. Okay. J755 Urban Training Complex. Horizontal project we already reported was completed, as well as the monitoring was actually completed a couple of years ago. This last year, the only new discoveries, we had a few discoveries prior to last year's workshop, and then we had a few more, which actually added another HR site that we did not know about. This was, you can see it's on the map there in the far left side of the project. I guess it's the west side of the project. It was just a few additional remains. We consulted on that, and with that, we did an additional ritual, which I think is on the next slide. So we'll keep on this one. The reports, also another 4-volume set of reports. Those have been reviewed, and they are also being finalized and should be submitted to us to submit to your office any day now. So you should see those results coming in the next week or two. Okay, moving along to the burial treatment plan for this project. Again, the previous updates to the left. We already had the ritual back in 2024. We had an additional ritual in 2025 for those additional remains, which were placed at HR 5. We have the monument and plaque design forthcoming. We have submitted I believe we submitted the proposed language to you, and so it's in your hands. When we are happy with that language, then we'll be submitting it to the commission for the translation. You'll also note in that plaque description that IA did the work on this, and they actually found on the 1639 map a revised name for this area. Previously, we referred to it as Mokfog. That was what the burial treatment plan named. That was coming out of the SHPA's office. But now there's a reconsideration of these names, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or Arlene Steffi has been involved at all. If you've like pulled her into the discussion on the place name for this. Patrick, did you have any?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So that you'll also find information. They give kind of a history of the naming of this area in terms of project-wise in that J755 report. So we'll look forward if you want any more discussion on that matter.
On the renaming.
So the original Mokfog, I believe, was that John Mark Joseph? that decided on that name for the
Well, that's what the
closest?
community there
That's what they
called it.
prior to Andy
And I
Right.
hope that before you reassign the name, that you consult with them.
Okay, so this is something that we were surprised, we didn't know about this until we reviewed the report. And so we're open to discussion on this. Because the Montauk name was on more recent maps, but there is an older map that shows that it's the 1639 map that shows these other names. And I don't know if these names ring a bell to you guys at all. Are you familiar at all with these names? And I do have to ask, because it's on a single map, do we have consensus that this was what this community was called? And a reminder, these are Latin period sites, so these are pre-Spanish, maybe going a little bit into the Spanish period. So, a lot of time has passed, a lot of memory has passed, but we're definitely open to discussion. But, just a reminder that the time period for the sites that we're naming it for is Latin period. So if we think that this was something that was, if this was the place name in the Latin period, then I would say let's think hard on keeping it. But if you have some strong feelings that may be a mistake or
I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, it may not be a mistake, but just at least consulting or informing the residents there, because they're going to be confused.
But there's no residents there.
Well,
I mean,
This is-
in the same area, that's Comalco.
right, but the residents, this is an installation that we've had since World War II, and so this isn't like a recent
Right.
claiming of the land, right? So in terms of what, I guess you have to ask which residents,
I'm only saying that because I know people that live there, and that's what they call it.
I used to live there too.
I mean, there's ways of identifying, I don't, we can't get away from Oakfoot, right? Because that's, in recent history, that's what people know it as, but make reference to
It does.
the old.
Yeah, it does, and the signage does reference the previous naming of the area. It is actually on.
I actually think there's a good compromise here. So people who would relate to the site know it as Mugfog. But if, for example, the interpretive signage acknowledges that it had other place names, Ipahon and...
I mean, that's all I wanted to make sure that,
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't, I'm just saying that you
I
consult
mean,
it.
even recent history, right? It's people know it as Andy South,
I mean, that's what the military named it.
and that's what most of us.
But growing up, I've known this place as Mugfog.
Right.
So, even with all the World War II, military occupation history, it's always been Mugfog to the people who actually live there.
Yeah. I have family there too. My in-laws.
So I think we may have,
Yeah, and
getting
that's
a sense
fine,
that we have
you know.
a compromise.
That would be, that would be okay.
Okay, yeah, that is no problem at all. Right now, we're just in the draft phase. Like I said, we've started with Supro's office for consultation, but we can certainly reword it to give better recognition to the name that is still in recent memory. Yeah, okay. All right, so moving along, next slide. Okay, that brings us up to, okay, so we're having some technical difficulties.
We're not able to, the internet went down, so we're not able to reconnect.
Okay.
So we lost ACH, so we can't be heard by,
We're trying to see if we can get like a talent call number, so we just.
It's okay, we're being recorded, right? So
yeah, we're being recorded, so, with the indulgence of folks, perhaps we can just proceed, continue.
Yeah.
And then, if we do get after post-meeting feedback from our participants that missed, parts of the meeting based on what they watched, then we can entertain that as a as a mitigation.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll move ahead. So now we're at the Mason Live Fire Training Range Complex for both projects P715 and P735. Construction is complete. The monitoring was complete for both projects already. The final P735 report was delivered last January, so within the time frame of this meeting. The range mitigation plan I included on this slide as well, because mostly because the sites that we are monitoring for that fall in this area. Last year there was raised concern for the Star Cave, which we are now addressing outside of the 2011 PA, so we won't discuss that further here. That would be its own meeting, but just wanted to update from last year's meeting because that was one of the topics that was raised then. So that's currently a funded study.
Yeah, well, just for the sake of, for the Colonel and his team, the probable impact of the firing range down below at the Star Cave, brought the concern up. And that's where the study has to come into play, right? If that in fact was affected the negative impact to that historic site. So we brought that up a couple of years ago, got the commitment from both your team and the Admiral to proceed with that study. So just to kind of give you guys a brief history on how that came about.
Thank you.
Okay. Also under the range mitigation plan, we had a couple of consultations. This would be for additional fencing that was required around this area. So we had that consultation in March, as well as we consulted on signage that is going to be part of a barrel treatment plan that we are right now starting to put together. And so the barrel treatment plan that will rebury the fragments that were removed for 715 and 735, we proposed, and it might be on the next page, or maybe, okay, so we proposed that it would be placed at the Rutidian Overlook, which is essentially just across the street from Mason. And so it seemed like an appropriate area to hold those remains. It is publicly accessible, but still, as far as I understand, DOD property. And so that's where we are proposing to do the reburial of those remains. And that plaque design is forthcoming, but we did have concurrence on that location. If you go back to the previous slide real quick, we also wanted to note, if you could go back a slide, that the range mitigation plan. So we had the initial study that was submitted to your office over a year ago. The next one that was up is there's two assessments that are next on the schedule, and these are meant to be annually for the first 2 years after they are operational. The ranges are now operational. They're not at 100% capacity of their operations. They're not using the schedule to the full capacity, but they are operational. So we're looking to do another assessment later in this year, and write that up at the end of the calendar year. So you could expect that at the beginning of the calendar year next year.
Are we talking Fish and Wildlife building as well today?
Yes, we are. That's safe.
I'll wait.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, look for that later in the year. Next slide. And next slide. Okay, P103. So this is one of our build-up projects under 2011 PA that's on Air Force Base. Construction of P103 is near complete. It's pending permits from the Guam EPA. And the monitoring was completed this last year as well. So that was September 2025 that came to completion. And we're currently reviewing the technical report for that monitoring, and we hope to have it reviewed and revised and to you in the near future. Next slide.
And the connection of the water source going over to wherever, that's already, we concurred with that.
Yeah. You're talking about the connection to the main base? Yes, it's already part of it.
Okay, P290, also Air Force Base. This is at MSA 1, the Earth Covered Magazines. Construction is now complete. The investigations were actually completed a couple of years ago, and the monitoring completed just this last year. No new discoveries, and that technical report is in the writing phase, so we don't have that yet to submit to your office. And next slide. P745. Okay, so this would be the new Fish and Wildlife Facility down at the Retidian unit. There was a Camp Laws was designated as the party to consult upon this project. The topo study and geotech studies they commenced in 2024, and there was monitoring support for these. And we just actually received one of the first monitoring reports out of this that we're just now ready to review. That said, the topo and studies at the Jeep Trail did not occur, and the project itself is now canceled. And the administrative record is forthcoming.
So they're not moving?
They're not moving. Yeah, they're able to operate the ranges so as the existing facilities can remain occupied.
So it's a good thing.
That's good.
I know.
So, and hopefully that report, maybe we learned a little bit more about it, the area, but for the most part, we didn't have to do any.
Is that like just a fragile thing and it might move again later, or that's hard and fast?
That's how it's going to work out in the foreseeable future. And actually, this is a big win for the taxpayers, because I think the projected bill, and obviously a big win for the taxpayers and also for the environment.
Yep.
Because I think it was like $170 million for this facility. And obviously the impacts to the Retidian archaeological complex from the construction would have been, obviously
sure.
substantial. So
yeah.
just the fact that we were, and speaking on behalf of the Marine Corps here, finding a solution whereby we can, save some money, save the environment, and also maintain operational readiness through, our training capabilities. That's a big win for it.
Can I ask a question? And this is not pertaining to that specifically, but pertaining to the wildlife refuge. Is any property of the wildlife refuge being transferred to Department of Defense?
I'm not tracking any.
Do you?
So from the Department of Interior to the Department of the Navy, is what you're saying. I haven't heard anything regarding that.
I'm just concerned.
Yeah.
And this has to do with existing laws.
Yeah. So as you well know, Mr. Joe, if a federal entity declares land access on Guam, actually I think it was former Congressman Underwood who passed a law. It actually is Guam was first in line for any declaration of excess property. So,
Right.
But given that this is critical habitat and under the jurisdiction of the Department of Interior, until such time that it no longer serves its purpose as critical habitat and a refuge,
Right.
I don't think it's going anywhere. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, because I've heard that Fish and Wildlife was the first one to take the dibs on the property.
Yes.
And that's it. If they don't need it, it goes back to Guam.
Yes, correct.
And I want to know if they transferred it to
No.
Department of Navy. Because if they did, then they're in violation.
Yes, that would be my understanding. So there hasn't been any proposal, and I'm in frequent conversations with Mr. Sam Sosa. He's the refuge manager. He hasn't mentioned anything like that to us. Thank you.
It's really something we should explore on our end.
Yeah,
Especially
okay.
Department of Workforce.
And I believe, next slide. Yes, so I powered through the projects, that's where we are with those. We also have the forest enhancement projects that are under this as well, but we gave it its own section. We have Charmaine here to speak on it. So if you could go on to the next slide. It was a busy year for forest enhancement.
Okay, so briefly for cultural resources, there are 3 main conservation areas within Camp Blas. So that purple polygon up top, that's the Kagwat Forest Enhancement Site, and the orange to the west is the Ecological Reserve area, and then you have Kagwat Forest Enhancement Site to the south. The main cantonment essentially is in between Kagwat and so forest enhancement activities include outplanting of native species, vegetation clearing for irrigation lines and access paths, fence construction of course is included, invasive plant and animal species removal, and forest maintenance of plants there. There have been 5 discoveries in the past year. Majority are pottery scatters, and they're all located within Kagwat Forest Enhancement Site where most of the work is currently happening. The pottery scatters were found during vegetation clearing for irrigation paths and removal of non-native species in Kagwat, and KLF TF09 is the latest or the most recent discovery, was found to be a potentially significant site during excavations of holes in preparation for outplanting. And this included pottery scatter and rock soil seeds found in the holes, of course. So Camp Blas will be submitting a new PA memo. This is just for information for the upcoming and Camp Blas will be submitting a new programmatic agreement memo regarding forest enhancement activities, which will essentially expand the area of potential effects beyond Kagwat and Kagwat, and will cover the whole Camp Blas installation. So that will include Mason Life Training Range Complex, Skaggs Urban Training Complex, and Camp Blas South.
For the sake of forest enhancement. Great.
And the larger conservation activities within
Got it.
our base.
Okay.
So the upcoming memo will also revisit current cultural resources management protocol relating to forest enhancement or conservation activities within our installation. And we have, I believe, presented some of those proposals in the KLF TF9 notification to the SHPO, which essentially will proposing to reduce the buffer originally from the 10 meters to 2 meters, having all our lessons learned in our archaeological monitoring throughout the years, of having less impact to not just for the cultural resources, but on the natural resources side as well. So that will all be presented again in the programmatic review memo that will be coming up. And that will, again, include not just Kagwat and Kagwat, but the whole installation.
Do we have a timeline? What do you think we're gonna know? You're like, how dare you ask me? It's coming. It's coming. Okay.
That's all for me for cultural resources.
All right. And I think that is conclusion of the cultural resources portion. So now we're up to the natural resources with Adrienne.
Thanks, everybody. Good morning. So just quickly, just orienting everybody, the current acreage and spaces we have in conservation. It's actually over 2,000 acres, including all of the sort of bits and pieces, the main enhancement areas that Charmaine pointed out, sort of flanking the main cantonment area, but also about 400 acres up at Mason that's in the STZ, but also has very high value forest. And then the Hokuto Ecological Reserve area, which actually is an older mitigation site, but has very significant natural resources as well as the cultural resources in that area. Next slide. And then this is just to orient you where everything is. So Mesa is up at the top in the north, and then Kaigua, Tagua, and Hokuto around the main component. And this also shows like our eventual goal is to have connectivity so that things can move between those protected spaces to protect sort of the larger genetic diversity of the things that we're worried about. So Anderson has a couple of spots in between along Route 3A that also are sort of refuges. They have some protected spaces there, as well as there's some upland land that's inaccessible that potentially will be part of the forest system plan that could potentially serve as kind of refugia, but also connecting these areas so that there's a wider conservation impact. Next slide. So just to reiterate, I think Charmaine already kind of covered what we're doing to actually intervene to improve the environment. A lot of it is really just managing invasive species that have been brought in over many, many years, in some cases hundreds of years ago. The spaces are all fenced to try to keep out invasive pigs and deer, which do a really dramatically sort of bad things to our native plants and some of our native animals. They not just eat the native plants, but they also change the whole habitat so it's less humid. They overturn the moss and the rocks, and it creates a really inhospitable place for a lot of our native species that then kind of has follow-on effects. And one of the things that we've been learning is that some of the invasive plants that have come in actually exacerbate things like storm damage, which is of concern also for our side, but also the cultural resources. After Mawar particularly, the big vitex just all toppled, and we had huge root balls coming up, exposing a lot of ground underneath. So if there are cultural sites or culturally important artifacts, they get exposed to weather, to people taking them, because of the way these trees do not withstand the typhoon winds like our native trees do. So just looking at those basic things, and then also doing some additional research to develop new tools for our sites, but also for the rest of Guam and the Marianas to try to manage these invasives in a way that is not necessarily as expensive, but also disruptive as some of the work we have ongoing now. So we're always looking for better ways to do this, and also to share those results with other partners who are doing similar work. Next slide. And then just to show you some of the things we're super excited about, this was done just before Sumaku, so we've had a little bit of a setback, but we're definitely seeing, just from the early stages of intervention we have already done, we're seeing a lot more bat sign in the forest, so there's evidence that the Fanihi are using the space where they were not before. We have a lot more Azuzu and Umeng, so it turns out that the pigs really like very small crabs. It's one of their food sources, and so now that we're not at zero yet because of the typhoons damaging the fences and animals moving back in, but very low densities of pigs and deer, and we're seeing a lot more of the native animals that should have been there in larger numbers that are now appearing to use the space and come back. A lot more native plants are coming in, they're doing much better. One of the things that's been interesting is that some of the things that are on the endangered species list, the trees do better when they're in groups to begin with, but it seems like the native groupings are better than an isolated endangered plant in a stand of invasives. And it turns out that the nunus seem to have a really important impact on the fatang, the cycas. The cycas that are underneath the nunu trees seem to do much better and not have quite as bad impacts from some of the invasive pests that are really decimating that species and that population. So we're in the early stages of trying to understand what exactly is working, but we definitely are noticing that there's a lot of connectivity that's really important. So trying to get that system kind of turn back the clock a little bit to what it would have looked like before we had so many invasives is really important for these trees that are not just in the natural system, but also have a lot of very important cultural and traditional uses. And then one on the bottom, this is probably not exciting to non-biologists, but Lumut, the moss. I was in the forest at the height of the dry season in 2025, still not fully recovered from Mawar, but it was striking to see how much moss was on the ground. And it has a very different feel. It's cooler, it's a humidity, but not kind of that stifling hot, it's just rain and it's 150 degrees out, but just it's a much different atmosphere, and there's so much more moss now in the forest, where just 2 years ago we would not have seen anything like that. And of course Lumut has a lot of cultural importance because of the Berlin, and people use it in these applications as well. But we're seeing a lot more of it, and it's sort of changing the way that forest feels and looks. So it's been very exciting. We have some setbacks with the weather, but I think we're moving in the right direction. Next slide. And then one of the other things that's been super exciting is the interventions we're doing are sort of time consuming and a little bit frustrating because you kind of go forward and then the typhoon hits or somebody breaks a fence or whatever happens and you kind of go back a little bit. But we are seeing a lot of signs that the environment, once we remove some of those harms, is actually fixing itself. The picture on the left is actually a tiny agave seedling, and it's an old installation remediation site that was scraped down to bare rock where nothing has grown on it for more than 20 years. Not grass, not weeds, not invasive trees, nothing. We took out the deer, who are very fond of this particular plant species, and agave is popping up everywhere, but one of the most exciting things is it's been recolonizing these areas that literally nothing has grown on for 20, 25 years. So the plants, once we take away one of the stressors, have been able to start coming in and doing some of that work themselves. So instead of us trying to figure out how do we put soil back, how do we recover this, we have species that are capable of doing it if we just remove the problem, the deer that were preventing them from growing there before. And then the other one is very young joga seedling, which is one of our big, really picturesque, I think one of the weird English names for it is the giant bonsai tree because it has this very unique and particular growth form. But we have not seen a lot of babies. It's probably also being eaten by the invasive pigs and deer, and we have been seeing them everywhere in the forest, not just around the parent trees. Perhaps the bats are spreading them. We're not 100% sure what is the vector, but we are definitely seeing babies all over the place that we haven't seen before. So it's really exciting that some of this is allowing the forest to come back on its own. And that is actually all I had, so happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions or needs information.
Well, I just want to comment, and Colonel, that's like another rock star on your team right there, right, from the environmental side. Good still for you. Stole her from Gov Guam.
Never let us forget.
Yeah. Never. And, hopefully there can be some, agreement that we can use her outside of Camp Los. But nevertheless, you can see the synergy of environmental and cultural resources. It's rare because sometimes we work in our little silos, and even on the government side, I have to emphasize and push myself to call Department of Agriculture and all of that stuff. It's just not something that pops up, right? But with Adrienne, she's on top of her stuff, and she'll call me up and, hey, we found this, and what do you think of this, and here's some solutions. And more often than not, I buy into it because there's a trust factor. There's obviously you hear the passion, and don't get her started on talking about all of that. I don't know what she was saying half of the time. But if I have something on my yard, I call her up and say, "What is this, invasive?" Or So kudos to her, kudos to the team, and this just falls in line with what we do out there as stewards of our land. And I'm just happy to work with these guys.
Can I say something? I know the great work that you guys do, and it's just that, like Patrick said, we're all working in this silo. Is there, or are you reaching out to the other organizations that perhaps what you're doing is good, that you can demonstrate that this may work outside?
So a lot of the work is actually being done with partners who have agreements with us. UOG has a big presence in the forest. Some of the local private firms are doing a lot of the work. And then also through our REPI and Sentinel programs, and then just informal networks, right? Like we all know each other, we've all worked together, some of us in the same organization in past sort of lives. We definitely do a lot of kind of information transfer and discussion. My sort of long-term goal for this, once we kind of stabilize and hopefully have not a typhoon for a minute so we can have some balance for a while, is actually to do something like a Friends of the Forest or some sort of similar program where we can actually have people come in and see what is happening and help volunteer for some of the work to learn the methods, because then they can take it out and use it in other places. I think we're a little bit far from that right now just because we're trying to get, again, stabilized based on all the things that had happened. Before Mawar, I think we had sort of a sooner plan, but everything's been pushed to the right because we had to redo about 4 years of work from the typhoons. So that that's kind of my long-term goal for the site, is to set that up, working with our, obviously, security and our command to make sure that everybody is covered and, we take care of the access and liability and all that good stuff. But there are models for it in plenty of places, so I think it's something we definitely can do. It's just, we need to get to a point where it's safe and reasonable to have people come in.
Anything else to discuss for this block? I think we're pretty good on track. We still have a few more minutes if there's any other discussion.
Did we want to talk about, and I know I just brought it up recently to Dr. Peterson and Patrick about, there are some, negative shovel test pits that we, as part of our investigations and our monitoring program, we'd like to reutilize for outplanting. Basically, we know there's a negative shovel test pit. We'd like to take advantage of that by actually planting a plant, rather than just covering it with dirt. Using our stock of propagated, seedlings to actually occupy that space. So, in our last meeting, you mentioned that you were going to consider that proposal, and I know Hetty has submitted that mitigation plan to you. Has there been any further considerations on the matter? Because last. We did get a non-concurrence from the SHPO's office.
We'll change that
plan.
today.
Yeah, okay. Oh, it's okay. All right, thank you. So there'll be more favorable response forthcoming. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. So that's good news, Adrian.
We're on the right track with that.
We're on the right track.
Yeah, I know we've had conversations about the new way forward. You put together a work plan and a PA memo, and then you find in practice it doesn't really work, and there's better ways to go about it. That is that nice balance between the culture and the archaeology, and restoring it not just back to the natural side, but the natural, the native side of the site as well.
Right.
And so it's that fine balance of something's going to grow in that hole, and let's make sure that it's native rather than invasive. Yes, Naomi.
I just wanted to bring that full circle. If you have a negative subsurface data, you have your data-driven sensitivity maps, and those maps in that area would be low sensitivity, right?
No, these are medium and to high, because we have sites in the area, and these are areas that have not been subsurface tested. And so these are areas that maybe when the site was discovered, there might have been one shovel test, but these are not sites. This is in the forest enhancement areas where they're doing the outplanting.
Oh, I thought that you said that there was an empty shovel.
These are actually outplanting holes.
Got you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
That's
misunderstood.
okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, that's also something to consider in the future too. If you have a shovel testing grid and you have negative holes.
Al said shovel test
Well,
pit, and
yeah.
I went, boom. You
Well,
guys
I think he
looked
said
at the
excavation pit, so for archaeologists who hear excavation,
Maybe,
we assume it's.
maybe I used a remark that is, that is exclusively
I thought you were
archaeology.
talking about archaeology.
Yeah, sorry, correction, yeah, these are
These are
that we're talking
outplanting
about today
holes.
these are outplanting.
But also, that's part of the data collection, right? And if you have enough,
Yes.
right, then we can consider reviewing, going back and.
Yeah, maybe the sensitivity
assessing.
has to be reconsidered.
Correct.
If we have enough of these.
I mean, you have subsurface information, you have a monitor
Yes.
who's recording that. So
Yes.
to me, that's data that tells you there's
Yeah.
nothing under there.
Yes.
So you could change your sensitivity
Oh, sorry, we're
based
getting
on.
into the weeds here, literally.
These are areas in particular, this is the KLF TF9, so this is an area where they had a lot of positives. We have a new discovery area, and it's one of the few that also had the soil stains, which we hadn't had at the other areas. But we're talking about, so with this methodology, as you are familiar with, Amy, they put in a hole for outplanting. If it's negative, they can plant. If it's positive, they move 6 feet, which is roughly 2 meters. And so they kept doing this, but now we have all these negative holes that are essentially the boundaries, or even some negative holes within the site, but they're within 2 meters of, say, a positive in some cases. And with our current protocol, we were meant to have a 10-meter buffer, and that's what we've been working under. But now we're asking, at least, in this case, to that 6 foot, 2 meter, and just make use of the hole. It's already dug,
Right.
so And something is, as Adrian has put it, something's gonna grow there, so it might as well be a native species.
And to give you an idea of the scale, we are planting in that one particular site, it's about 37 acres, 11,000 trees. So there's a lot of those. So there will be a lot of data because they are monitored to see what is occurring so that we will set them aside if there's a positive finding with that 2 foot or 2 meter buffer. So it's a lot of data because it's a ton of plants going in the ground.
And those sensitivity maps, the living maps.
They're living maps. Once you have your subsurface data, and then you can change your maps of, in consultation, of course.
Yes. All good points, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so we have a break built in now, comfort break. Let's go ahead and make use of that, and when we come back, we'll finish off our other items of cultural resources. So we're in our last block. We're right on time, actually. We have a little bit of cushion time after the next grouping. But to move along, we are going to hear on the updates of the National Register of Historic Places, the Guam synthesis, curation, and then on to any new action items. So up next, we have Vanessa, who's been our lead on the NRHP submissions. So go ahead, Vanessa.
So this is just a quick overview of the NRHP updates. Under the 2011 PA, a total of 40 nominations are required between 2011 and 2030. So far, 5 of these nominations are officially listed during 2012 and 2014. An additional 19 nominations from calendar year 2014 to 2019 and 2022 to 2023 are currently pending HQ resubmission following JRM CRM review, while 6 nominations from calendar year 2020, 2021, and 2024 are under internal review. For the 2025 update, 6 nominations are currently drafted and are being prepared for submission to SHPO, which means we have 4 more nominations left to contract. As of September 2025, we received an updated interim guidance, which has been implemented for submitting and updating these nominations for review by the Department of Navy Federal Preservation Officer. The process begins with the installation CRM with oversight from the regional SME, preparing the NRHP package. This package must include forms, photographs, the FBO brief, action items, supporting documentation such as PAs, MOAs, SHPO comments, and legal and PAO review. The installation CRM then submits package to the CNIC headquarters, POCs. The POCs reviews and endorses the nomination and routes the package to NAFRAC HQ, and HQ briefs the FBO.
CNIC or?
CNIC.
CNIC.
Yes.
So this is essentially our in the past we were, once we were happy with it and SHPO signed it, with SHPO's signature, we routed it up to JRM for the Admiral's signature and then on to headquarters. So it's changed a little bit from before, but this is essentially getting it to the Federal Preservation Officer. And then from there, depending on any changes that need to be made, would then be routed on to the keeper for review. So this is just some new SOPs in terms of getting it to headquarters and getting their approval on it. It's more of an internal thing, but it's just the new protocol that we're going to follow under CNIC.
Any that is in the keeper's hands right now?
No, because we have those 19 that we submitted last year to headquarters. They wanted us to include some JRM oversight, and so we had Naomi reviewing it at the time. You were acting in that capacity, and between Naomi and headquarters, they asked us to take a look at these submissions, review them again, and make sure they meet the requirements and and that they're ready for review. And so after we finish the 6 that are currently being contracted right now, we actually already had headquarters review. We're going to receive the last of the 6 hopefully this week, and then next order is to have SHPO review. So once these 6 that are, while we still have the contractor on board, we're focusing on those, and once those have been completed and out of our hands onto headquarters, then we're going to start looking at those 19 again. And I'm going to work with Jen Hardy, and we're going to come up with a plan in terms of how many they can handle at a time, and in batches we're going to start routing them up after we've looked at them harder. Now right now we don't have somebody in JRM and as a CRM, right? So we don't have that for review in terms of oversight. So we're going to have to talk to Jen about how we're going to go about fulfilling any sort of requirement there. But otherwise, yeah, we're hoping to have these, just look at them one more time, make sure they're in good shape before we pass them on again. And certainly every year I'm updating you on the list of sites, and if there's any changes in the status, that'll be noted there. But you can always, if you ever have a question on them.
I do.
Yeah.
So if we can put it for a parking lot item, is if we can have a flow chart developed with this, including our review on the Guam SHPO side, because technically it was supposed to go to our review board for them to review all the nominations. So I'm not sure on your routing and review process where we fit in, because you're showing me your process, but okay. So if we can do that as an action
overall
item.
process flow chart, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because we do have in there just the line on SHPO comments, but yeah, to be a little bit more transparent and have better clarity on how this is working.
Yeah.
Certainly we can do that, and I'll work with Jennifer on that as well,
Yeah.
make sure I get it all right.
And we can do a side session on it as to is it better to have us review it before GRM signs off or after, or because at the end of the day it comes back to us, right? Once you guys are done, you're done, and then we oversee all of the National Register. We control the National Register here. So I wanna kind of put some thought into, where's the right in the process, where do we fit in that would best,
Do we have Jennifer, were you able to work out the kinks? Okay, Jennifer Hardy, are you on the line?
I am.
Oh, great, wonderful. I don't know if you could speak on that in terms of where in this process the SHPO's office comes in, whether it's for review or for signature. If you could just give us a rundown of where they fall in the process.
So typically the way it happens is the nominations are prepared by the local installation, and then they route it up through the region. The region provides just another level of technical review before it comes to us. And then we provide a senior level technical review and send back our comments to the installation. Once the installation makes those changes, it goes to the SHPO for review, but typically the FPO signs the nomination before the SHPO does. If that doesn't work for you, you can have him on it. So what happens sure that everything is.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, if I can stop you for a second, there's something wrong with our system. Okay. Because the last thing I could understand is where you said that's the current process, but I think you were saying if that's not working with the SHPO's office. And
They're breaking up really bad.
Yeah, our network connection is not working very well right now. Can you still hear us though? I think maybe we lost Jack.
Anyway, whatever came through, that sounds more like in the process of what I'm thinking, as opposed to how you guys were routing it before.
Yes. So what I last heard was the federal preservation officer should sign first before it goes to the SHPO's office.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah, okay.
I agree with
Correct.
that.
Wonderful.
Okay.
That makes it easier.
Dr. Marsh?
But that doesn't preclude SHPO from giving a review.
Okay.
Like, they should absolutely have a review opportunity before it comes to us for final submission to the FPO. But as far as signing, the FPO generally signs first.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll work out the process flow chart to confirm that, but we get the gist that the FPO should sign first. We're not precluded from doing any interim reviews with you prior to that process, but we try to find the best place for you to actually provide your review comments on the flow chart. Yeah.
Because my review board on the local side could possibly be reviewing it in parallel with your FPO.
Yes.
You know, so
Okay.
you know we'll take a deep dive later.
Absolutely. Dr. Moore.
Yeah, and I don't know if this has been something discussed before, so maybe I'm not remembering this part of the PA, but if there's the possibility for your board to also request, if they seem it so fit, that they could request for it to be looked at for being added onto the publicly accessible sites, public access sites.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. If they are, let's just say that there's no, extraordinary difficulty in getting to the site, it's typically, it makes sense for them to be added onto the public access program.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say, through my process of trying to decide which sites to include, which ones to contract, then I start thinking about, certainly the sites that people would, that are valuable to the community. And so, yeah, some of the sites like the Finna Cave and of course Tweeds Cave, these other sites, we are seeing, and some of the Laddie sites out at Munitions Station, they have also made it on the path. But again, it's also up to the installation. It's for them to coordinate. We can speak on our sites, and we can certainly encourage Navy Base and Anderson to add more sites on their end. But yeah, they can certainly work hand in hand in terms of the ones that we put into the path. It just kind of makes sense that it's these sites.
Yes.
Yeah, and eventually I hope to have some signage at these sites with the nice little NRHP signs. So we're going to look into that as well as a future.
Maybe that could be a legacy proposal.
Yeah.
And then just to let you know, we're boarding up our new historian third week of June. So this will be her, primary job. She's going to jump right into it. So at least, I'll have somebody with hands-on working on this as well.
Great.
Okay, if we're good there, then we can go on to the Guam synthesis.
Famous Guam synthesis.
Okay, so now normally Carly gives this slide, right? And we don't have her on the line, and so I spoke with her this last week to get any other last minute updates. So there is an external review volume. This is the one that contains CUI, and that one is currently being prepared. Again, I expect it any day now. It's already been reviewed. They're finalizing it for submission to your office. So that one, we're hoping in the very near future to be submitting to your office. And then, of course, there'll be a public version that is free of CUI, and that one will be formalized after all the comments come in from your office, and we're happy with it. So some of the data incorporation was affected by the government shutdown this last year in October and November. Carly's the core of the project, and she was furloughed during that government shutdown. She was not accepted, so a lot of stuff kind of came to a halt when it came to incorporating and getting to those deadlines. The contractor did pull through. They did finish the draft by the end of the calendar year as we had hoped. But yeah, so we're just now finally getting the version that we were happier with to your office in the very short future. There's also the storyboard and the teacher toolkit, and that is part of this project. They're still developing that. We're hoping to see kind of a run-through of some of the GIS portion of this, maybe by the end of the summer. But they're still putting together both of these products, and we're hoping to get them to you maybe by the end of the calendar year is what we're shooting for. And I think they're on track for that. I don't know if you have any questions about those.
What date is the version take us up to? End of 25?
I believe it is 25. Yeah.
It should, right?
Should?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's 25. Yeah, I think they were trying, they were still, we were still finalizing J755 and J001B. We haven't submitted those to your office. So, it helped that they, IA is the contractor for this project. It helped that they had worked on some of these projects. We did share the drafts with them. Of course, they're not finalized for submission to your office yet, but, they incorporated what they could. And of course, this is, the second iteration of the Guam synthesis. It's a 2022 project, and I think we're due for another one.
We're actually executing the next Guam synthesis iteration this fiscal year.
So whatever is in that
we
one.
were okay with the delay because we were going to implement Camp Loss.
Yes.
So it should be in there.
Yes.
That's where we're at with that, and look for the external volume should be your office.
So
very soon.
how long before I start complaining about this?
If you don't get the storyboard and teacher toolkit by the end of the calendar year, you're prime time to make a complaint next, even before the next annual workshop by the end of this calendar year.
Okay, how about the draft?
That one, any day now.
Any day now.
Any day now.
I mean, we said, okay, so this is the final. That was a few weeks ago. It might have been maybe the typhoon had something to do with getting it to us. I don't know. I'm expecting it any day now.
So if we go into next week and we don't hear from Carly, I'll be the first to call you.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That's exciting. I mean, I don't know if you know what the Guam synthesis is, but
I'm still learning.
Yeah. You want to explain?
Yeah, this is actually one of the major deliverables under the programmatic agreement. This deliverable actually belongs to the SHPO. It is a consolidation of all the archaeological information for the entire island, not just the military, but also on the civilian side. And we have this very rare opportunity to synthesize all that into this document to be able to tell the fabric of the story, right? So it's not just the story, let's say, inside the fence. It's more of an island-wide and going through multiple historical periods. So, and the fact that we're going to create a public version of this that can be shared with basically anybody, because cultural information is CY, it's controlled information. Having a public version of this is going to be a milestone. Very important for the SHPO, obviously, but important to Guam. So I think having this work product and getting to the finish line on this is going to be a major accomplishment for the entire, for all the PA parties. So I really think that this is going to be a really good work product that we can be proud of. So.
And Patrick, they're supposed to give us a run through of the GIS part of it. I guess it's the storyboard, yeah, Charmaine, that they were.
This is going to be the GIS management.
Oh, just the management.
So
Okay.
the database essentially.
Who's they?
IA. So they're going to do a demonstration for us probably later in the summer. And so maybe I can invite you to join us with that, and so you can have some input. And they were hoping that it could be a product they could give us so that in the future, if somebody wants to use the database, it could be a step-by-step, but if you'd like to be a part of that, then I can invite your office to a presentation.
One other thing, Patrick, that I want to point out. So we feel that there should be like a public rollout for the synthesis once we have the public component of it. And we'd hope that we could have a joint rollout amongst the parties. We'd invite even our other parties beyond just the SHPO. So we're looking forward to organizing that.
I mean, probably too late to recommend, but we can other organizations can pick it up. But the synthesis is a huge document.
Yes.
It's overwhelming. I've seen it. And the idea that we had was to sort of have small little books of coming from the synthesis. You know, having to do with fishing or having to do with, you know, pottery, where you have these, and you synthesize everything.
Yes.
And you come up with these little tidbits that people can pick up if they wanted to.
It's almost like a sub-theme, like a,
Right.
yeah.
Right, so, you know, that
So,
would be a great
Mr.
idea.
Joe, you're not too late because we are putting together the PWS, our performance work statement for the next synthesis. We could incorporate.
If you can incorporate that, that would do the public a lot, than to hand them over this huge log, you know.
I think though also, you know, it could be, through the GIS, you can filter out that, right? And if you have these subsets of, you know, pottery layer or fishery layer or traditional practices layer, and you know, that's something that's manageable and you know, if that's all you're looking at, and if it's in Melesso, you want to look at, you know, pottery in Melesso, you click Melesso and pottery, and boom, there, you know, there's your information.
Yes.
I don't know if it's at that level that IA is doing, but GIS is capable of doing that. So just throwing it out there, just to make it more palatable for people to use the synthesis.
Yes, so maybe a parking lot item, look into the Guam synthesis current scope, whether we have some of those like sub-themes or
as part of the
sub-components that we can pull
storyboard.
out as part of the storyboard. If not, then we'll look at the PWS for the FY26 award for the next iteration of the Guam synthesis and incorporate some ideas from.
That would be great.
Yes.
And they're still kind of formalizing what the teacher toolkit will cover, if it's, and we were trying to get information, if it's just, you know, a single topic, if it's multiple topics, and what that's gonna look like. And so, you know, if you have some ideas that you wanna send me, again, I don't know where we're at in terms of what they intended to include with that, if it's mostly focused on, you know, archaeology in terms of the process, or if it's topics, but if it's not part of this teacher toolkit, it could be part of the next teacher toolkit. To have those brochures, to have the pamphlets that speak to specific topics that are important to you.
Joe, do you have a POC we can work with at your office, or do you want us to go with you directly on the ideas so that we can follow up?
2 more weeks to work.
Now that you have 2 weeks to But we do have, you know, we have Andrew Tenorio is going to be the interim.
Okay. So if it does go past 2 weeks, then you know who will be reaching out to.
But you can still reach out to me.
Okay. There you go. All right.
I'm okay.
Pro bono, right?
Yeah.
But no, I'm excited about this. You know, it's overdue, but also it's a big product, right? And I know they're working on it, and whether you're a researcher or, you know, a student or a teacher or what have you, it's the intention is an all-encompassing one-stop shop for everything archaeology.
It is a great document.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the museum can use it to do their the narratives for their, you know, for the museum, for exhibits, you know.
Great tool.
Yeah, we look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay. And I think next up we have curation. And I'll hand it off to you, Naomi.
All right. Who's clicking?
Sure. Coming.
Okay, so I'm going to present on curation. My name is Naomi Brandenfels, for those of you who are on the line. I am a Cultural Resources Manager at NAVFAC Marianas, and I am the technical representative for Cooperative Agreement. And there's a team of people who are working on the curation for JRM. You want to click to the next slide? So this slide has a lot of words. It's got the objectives. They're inventorying, they're managing it. They, they check on the collections. They intake some collections from contractors. Last year, 2025, they did a full inventory of what is existing right now with the installations and with the National Park Service. And also there were some boxes that were identified at the Guam Museum. I think that's covered in some other slides. So they did do a full inventory of what we had and the facilities to see whether or not they were compliant or if they needed to, additional resources to keep them in compliance. Next slide, please. All right, so these are just some numbers from Navy Base Guam and a photograph. Last year, Navy Base Guam was able to get some additional shelving in their facility, which helped, bring up their curation standards. We have, just some assessment. Everything really looks pretty good there. It is compliant, or mostly compliant. Occasionally there's a pest that's seen over there. They have traps and what have you. And it doesn't have, a backup generator to keep it cool. So those are the things that it's lacking. But so new shelving, everything's up off the floors. There's no boxes stacked on top of each other.
Big improvement.
So looking good, Navy Base Guam. All right, next slide. Oh, Marine Corps Camp Laws. Look at all that room in there.
It doesn't look like that anymore. we've now gone onto the table.
So actually,
this was last year.
Marine Corps Camp Laws is actually compliant. They have a really good facility. They've got, as you can see, good shelving, no back boxes stacked on top of each other. Lots of room, no sign of anything, right? Looking good, Marine Corps Camp Laws. This is last year's assessment, so I'm pretty sure you have more boxes now. So, maybe next year you'll have an update for you. Or you'll be transferring, who knows? Things will change. All right, next. Anderson's got a couple of boxes. They are inadvertent discoveries. They don't have their own collection facility or, a curation facility. These are items that we are hoping to catalog and move into another facility. And then this Guam Museum collection, there were about 60 boxes that were identified that were in the Guam Museum temporary repository over at the Flores building. And you can see here they're on shelves and they're stacked on top of each other. And I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with the facility, but they are moving all of the boxes out of that facility, I think going to the current ISF tracing facility.
Is that done now?
Oh.
You guys are totally out of Flores already?
No, it's ongoing.
Oh, still?
Yeah.
Little. So Settle has moved half of those boxes, about 27 or so. And then to the National Park Service. They had room on their shelves, so we moved them over there. They have a curator who comes out and they do, the assessments. Every year they have to check something, 10% of the boxes and check things. And also, they made a second trip this year to accommodate the intake for that. So by probably the end of June or July, let's just say July because we always move slower than we think we can, we'll have all those boxes and the records moved to the National Park Service. I don't think we have a slide for the National Park Service, do we?
No, I was going to ask you about that.
There might be an oversight on our
Yeah,
part.
I wondered if they did an assessment there as well.
They checked it out, but the National Park Service does their own assessment, so we have a report.
Maybe it's because they didn't have the data from it. I don't know, but yeah, it's missing from the side.
So, but the National Park Service does do an annual assessment. They bring a curator over. They have their backup generator.
Yeah, because I know we have some boxes there. I know Navy Base does. Anderson probably does as well.
Yeah.
Some of our boxes are over there.
So that that's it. Things are looking good. I would say the Forest building is not up to 36 CFR or 79 standards. And so, you know, it was a priority for us to move those boxes. And, you know, in doing so, they move them, they freeze them for 2 days, then they inventory them, then they store them, and then before moving them back into the National Park Service, they do another freeze, another 2-day freeze, you know, then it has to, they have to come back to room temperature before you monkey them a little bit. And then they move them. And so we were able to move half of those before and after the typhoon. She came over here during the typhoon, and they were able to still accomplish everything. She's a real trooper. The National Park Service creator. Oh, here it is. What I said, freezing fine. Yeah, and so that has been successful so far. Half done. Glass half full. So, and I think that might be a lot. No, that's not the last slide. So I think this is really important. And so the Sentinel team, they're on a cooperative agreement, and as part of their support for Joint Region Marianas, they have a team, like a pretty good-sized team, and we are really bringing over, when we bring people over, they're really experienced, they have, you know, master's level education, but we're really recruiting a lot of local talent. I mean, I've made that a mission to, you know, just really hit all the areas and, you know, find out who's looking for work. I know that, you know, there's some people in here that I've talked to, and I'm like, you got anyone? And we really want to build capacity here for Guam and Micronesia. So we have, her name is Zoya. She's actually Palawan, recent graduate from the University of Guam. You know, we have, you know, several handful of people who are working on these collections and other projects, but I'm just talking about curation, that are really from Guam, from Micronesia. We're training them with these skills so that they'll be able to, you know, bring that back to Guam. Next slide. You know, just some check boxes. That's a repeat photograph. That one. It looks good. You know, a lot of people's eyes are on that right now, taking care of the curation. You know, I know that there is a draft agreement in review to move them to the repository, but until then, the collections are being kept. I think that might be it.
Thank you. Now we just had one more. This is kind of open forum, because, you know, last time we had kind of a rundown of where we were at in terms of moving boxes. We're behind that schedule. I know originally we were supposed to start moving, I think starting with the Marine Corps last October, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet with the storage fees. So it was kind of an open forum now, just discussing the current status of actually transferring those boxes and just kind of troubleshooting where we're at with that process. Also, I'd like to hear to ask them about the remaining capacity, because I know you guys have received a lot of boxes recently from abroad that were returning home, these resources. And so even just if you guys could speak on your capacity to receive our boxes at this time. I don't know what it looks like. It's, you know, when we were there, I think the shelves were empty, and now they're filling. So I don't know if you could speak a little bit on that. That would be great.
We don't have a whole lot of capacity concerns right now. I mean, of course, the room that was not, the shelving that was not a part of the construction contract, so which left the, you know, one storage room not quite ready to be used. We're already working on procuring the additional shelving for that, so I don't think storage capacity is going to be an issue. We've done a lot of work to create redundancy in the building, which is ongoing right now. The redundancy HVAC unit the project is live, so. I think that in general, we're not that concerned about the delays in transfer, just because we understand that challenge pretty intimately as we we're still going through the kind of regular cadence to get all of the boxes out of Flores and into our appropriate facility. So I think the capacity and the pace is less of a concern for us. I think the biggest issue that we've been trying to navigate is that, quite frankly, in my personal opinion, as much as I think that the mitigative measure to construct the facility is absolutely important, it is nonetheless an incomplete mitigation because there's still the reality of the cost of the operation, which is now being borne by the local government. And we've been pretty upfront about this issue and where we stand on this. Which is why the curation fees. I know we've gone back and forth on the rates, but the fees that we developed, which has been approved by the Board of Trustees for DCA, are built specifically with sustainability in mind. And so we basically factored in, what does it actually cost to power the building, to keep the building operational? Which of course, as you all know, the building comes with this requirement that it has to remain, an operational repository for 30 years. And so, of course, we logically have to consider what is the cost of that operation. But in terms of the fees and the procedure for that, where it's ongoing. We already have gotten to the point where we feel satisfied with what we propose that has been vetted by our board and approved. We're going to hold our stance pretty firm on this. And so regarding the nuts and bolts of transfer, we're not panicking if the pace is not as fast as we would like. We understand that even for us internally, it's a challenge. This procedure that Naomi was referring to is, the freezer's only so big.
It's only so big.
Yeah, so, but logically, it just takes a lot of time to transfer high volume. So we're not really worried about that. Obviously, procurement is going to be a challenge for us, and preparing the last storage room to receive artifacts. But, everything is rolling the way that we imagined it would. Even the snags and delays, we kind of anticipated these. So I don't think that we're in a place where, we feel like anything is necessarily falling apart. It's just the task list is long, and we just got to continue to truck through it. Right now, our big focus is the integration of the facility and operation into the Department of Tomoto Affairs, because it was open under an operational agreement with the University of Guam. So there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape that we need to cut through just to migrate the employees into our payroll. So, all of that is ongoing. I think we know what our challenges are, even minus this particular transfer. So we're not panicking just yet. I feel pretty good about where we're at, and even with this update, I don't think this doesn't necessarily change what it is that we're doing now.
So you're basically open for business if, for example, we wanted to accession a limited quantity.
Yeah, based on what we had talked about in the last PA, right, and the confirmation from your legal team about whether or not we could proceed on transfer even without the intergovernmental service agreement executed. Maybe I misinterpreted this, but it sounded like at the last meeting that this could still happen.
Yes.
As we work into agreement and execute that agreement.
I can tell you right now that the intergovernmental services agreement, way ahead, is a non-starter at JRM. I've asked about the intergovernmental services agreement statute and how we could execute that agreement through JRM, and basically we have zero way forward on that. So our only recourse at this point in time is to do a cooperative agreement with the entities that manage the repository, and whether that's through the University of Guam in partnership with DCA, however we want to work it, that would be our primary vehicle for executing any accessions and curation.
Well, I would say that I can't give you hard answer on our stance without understanding what is embedded in a cooperative agreement.
It's basically the same language, terms and conditions that we were trying to go through under a intergovernmental services agreement. That is one statute that you can enter into services with the local government. But we also have cooperative agreements, which have basically equivalent authority to enter into cultural resources work with local governments.
I mean, I think so long as our concerns about maintenance, sustainability, and, you know, whether or not the agreement, through whatever mechanism, whether it's intergovernmental service agreement, cooperative agreement, so long as it has the teeth that's necessary to hold each side accountable, I don't think that we're gonna have an issue. I mean, if in principle, the cooperative agreement gets done what we intended with the intergovernmental service agreement, then it's tomato to us.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's what we propose on doing. We have about $50,000 that we'd like to use towards a pilot. And I mentioned to Dr. Kelly Marsh that we'd like to work with her on that initial push. And the cooperative agreement, we would be essentially adopting the terms that you wanted under the intergovernmental services agreement and port it over into that cooperative agreement.
All right, and we look forward to seeing the draft.
Yes, absolutely.
Anything else on this matter?
Oh, I did want to ask, are the fees ready for dissemination? What you proposed as your fee schedule, is that already ready for dissemination to other parties?
Yes. Well, what we have has been approved by our board.
Yes.
And so, at this point, it's really just a formality of us. We need to embed it into our AAA, our Administrative Adjudication Act, which, of course, has to go through its own governmental process. But in terms of setting, in what we set, that has already been agreed on by our board. So the only thing that would really change it is a procedural error in our submission for AAA.
So we could.
Well, I take that back. That's not. Of course, if there is public objection during our process, that influences it. But I mean, based on what we're proposing is really nothing. We don't anticipate that there would be public pushback on our rates.
So if I may just request a copy of perhaps the full fee schedule so that we can start to formulate our plans for the future in terms of programming for funds, things of that nature.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to give Dr. Marsh Tyson an opportunity to kind of just to go over the mic here.
Yeah, can I ask you just a question? So it was also approved by the University of Guam board.
Right,
And
because
so-
it was that had to happen while it was while the MOU was live. Right, that was part of our agreement with the university, was that that UOG would develop this as part of our contract. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so, depending upon how the board, they've been supportive, even when we were under UOG management, they had a review, they've been supportive all along. And so I guess it depends upon with the board and the path forward, but legal counsel has said that stands even with, it still meets the AAA requirements and it can stand as is, even under DCA. So I just wanted to make that point. It is shareable as long as the board and the president are okay with that. And I guess they will do their final determinations if they will re-review.
So this, it sounds like UOG went through a AAA process
Yes,
for the
we
rates
had
that.
public hearings
Yes.
and everything, yes.
So this upcoming AAA process
Is really more for the Department of Somoto Affairs as a whole.
As a whole. Okay,
Yeah.
understood.
It's just going to be embedded, but this particular piece, because of the arrangement with the university, that had gone through their own public process in order to approve it, this piece is good.
Yes.
Yeah, so when I talk about the AAA for DCA, I'm talking about other things like, to include how we use the Skinner Plaza Park, which is a part of our property, or how we, rent out the multi-purpose room or whatever.
Yes. Okay, understood. So, shall we reach out to you for the rates as they currently stand, that will undergo this new AAA process? Is it something that we can now start to?
Yeah, I think we're pretty ready at this point. All I need to do is just ensure that my board is ready to put it out.
Okay.
But as far as, our understanding is that it's been vetted, and we know what our stance is, and we know we're pretty firm in where we're at. Yeah.
So we'll reach out then, Melvin, if you
Sure.
don't mind, and maybe we'll copy Dr. Kelly
Please.
Mark's itinerary.
Okay.
And then, so that we can start for planning for those rates. I'm sure DRM will have some consideration regarding that. But again, we actually don't need the rates, we just need to pay for actual services under the cooperative agreement. But once it is final and formal, then that's the way that we're gonna, engage in those future cooperative agreements. But right now, we can still do a cooperative agreement based on actual work done, rather than based on a fee schedule. So just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, that wraps up our presentations. It's now just a question of how well is PA working and lessons learned and opportunities for improvement. We already have the parking lot started. We know some of the new action items moving forward for next year's meeting. I don't know if there's anything to discuss here, or we'll just move on to the parking lot.
Well, I'd like to open it up to, Patrick first, yeah.
Yeah, this is year 15, right, of a 20-year agreement. And, we've, like Joe mentioned earlier, we had our early battles of, what we feel is needed. We still have some challenges. I think between now and next year, we can put a small 5-year goal, right? How can we finish strong with this particular PA? We're normally working through the processes and the programs, and I think if we can have some unified vision of how we can finish strong in this 20-year agreement, and we can work to present that next year. That's one thing. The other thing is really, with the development of the new PA for 2026, there's a huge emphasis on transparency, right? What does that mean? From a clear-cut website, right, or putting up our projects on, or outreach programs or what have you. We can always do better when it comes to transparency, and that's with this PA and the overall next PA. So, we got to think of that. Like I said, is it having a clearer website? We have the CRI, but do we really utilize it, or are we just checking the box, right? And what product do we put out there? Can we incorporate that in the overall PA? Because is this going to sunset into the 26 version, right? And then within those goals, also the final 5 years is what are we going to, the goodness of this. Is it going to die, or can we somehow continue it? I.e., the synthesis, right? The technical assistance that's been given, the nomination programs. These are the good stuff that has come out of it. And do we make those things just go away once this PA expires? How can we somehow continue to incorporate that, whether it's in a new PA or just another agreement, what have you? So just things to think about. We don't want to just kind of look at the 20-year box. Camp Loss is going to be here pretty much, forever, right? Supposedly. So we can't just say, okay, we're done with this agreement, salute and move on, right? What's next? What's after that 5-year period when this thing finally comes to an end? So this is the time that we need to start thinking about that, planning it. supposedly the hard stuff was done with all of the construction, and that's pretty much the meat of this agreement. But, you know, always looking back and what we've learned from these times, how can we move forward into the next generation with the relationship between Camp Los and the local government and the local people. So that's what I got.
All right, next slide. Okay, so what do we have in the parking lot? So you want to go through them?
Sure. On the parking lot, we have obviously the public access plan. We're gonna get at it. And then for the J755 old place names, Ipahan and Pinari, we're gonna find a way to acknowledge in our interpretive signage those older place names while still retaining, you know, obviously the more recent but obviously more recognizable to the, you know, to the living population, the Mogfog. So we'll follow through with that. We also have follow-ons on the planting holes, using them for, you know, we're going to get some feedback from the SHPO soon on the utilization of that for outplanting. And then the idea of utilizing the absence of cultural information in those planting holes themselves as a way to perhaps relook at our sensitivity maps, because most of our forest enhancement areas are either medium or high sensitivity. So there's an opportunity there. We'll also incorporate the SHPO's, in our NRHP SOP flowchart to ensure that we follow what the flow, what the current SOP is saying, but also identifying the more appropriate spots where we can obtain either early feedback and then obviously get the SHPO's final signature. And then this Guam synthesis scope, we heard from Joe obviously on perhaps those sub-themes that you know, could be very useful to folks that don't want to go through the entire document because it's highly technical. Maybe they have an interest item in one of the lifeways, like for example fishing, traditional, you know, other traditional activities. We'll get at that. And that's the last item that's on the action, for our action on the parking lot. Did we miss anything that we needed to add? I know I heard just recently from Patrick on the 5-year vision. How do we transition from our current set of you know, actions under this 2011 PA once it sunsets? There are some programmatic aspects of what we're doing that has proven valuable to the partnership. You know, how do we visualize that glide path towards perhaps either one of the existing agreements or perhaps a newer agreement down the line? I know we're still working on the 2026 programmatic agreement, so we'll have that on our action item as a long-term vision. Sir,
can I just add one to the parking lot, and that is, you know, there's a reason why there are these mitigating projects like the synthesis and all of this stuff, and it's not because we thought of it all of the air and threw it in. It's because what we foresaw at that time that was going to be it's going to impede in a lot of the stuff that we feel very strongly about. Can I just recommend that we look at what we've done with the mitigation items and see if it actually took care of what we you know, it was going to mitigate.
Yes.
You know, a good example would be the repository. You know, that's really very tangible stuff that, you know, we foresaw that there were going to be a lot of cultural resources that are going to happen, are going to be dug up, but we don't have the space for it. So the mitigating action was to build a repository, and we did that, and that was good, so you check mark.
Yeah.
So if we can have just a report on just what we did. Did it really mitigate it?
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's what you're going to transition into the.
Yeah, so, another thing on that is, just maybe just a quick look through the PA and look at what the reporting requirements have been. And did we comply with that, right? 2008 is an example, right? People want to know what the hell is what happened between 2008 and 2026 within that PA? And is there any reports, right? So, we've got to be accountable for every PA. And so the onus is going to go back to my partner, which is you guys, and look at what you promised us in a reporting standpoint. Naomi, I don't know who's going to be the POC for the 2008 reporting, but,
Well, that's your quarterly reports, right? And so Erin is
Erin's the
POC
man, that's right. Erin, it's your.
Sorry, man. She's just helping us out for now until we get something. But
and you probably caught up, and you're gonna probably need another one after June.
Yeah.
Right? So they have got a little time to figure it out. I mean, that's the reporting requirement, and they are in compliance with the reporting for the 2008 programmatic agreement right now, and also all the PACs.
So, what I wanted really to do was to show the public that, hey, we were working on all of this because this is what we saw or foresaw, and that it's worked, if it did work. If it didn't work, we have to tell them it didn't work.
So what I'm hearing Joe say is we need to have like some sort of short form. So we do a semi-annual report, right, for the 2011 programmatic agreement. It's on the Cultural Resource Information website. But even that report in its very kind of summarized fashion is still not like what Joe is describing, like present the mitigation, yes or no that we meet the intention, and some table form of some sort. I don't know. I'm still trying to visualize it, but some easy
to show
reference.
the public that we're accountable for these things, and we need to show that. And it's not just here's a report for that, but say hey and I set the example of the repository. That's something that the public should know. It's not something that we just decided to build. It was because this was going to happen.
Yes. And so perhaps something in brochure form.
And that way the public would know why a PA was brought about.
Yes. Perhaps our next update to the, so we have a PA accomplishments part of our brochure. It's in front of you.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to visualize maybe we just, in our next version, just have a table that says programmatic mitigations, Guam synthesis, yes or no, that kind of stuff. NRHP nomination, yes or no. So something easily digestible, just looking at it, just initial glance. People are not going to have the time to go through the semi-annual report.
Right.
So understood. I caught that. So maybe a brochure version of our evaluation of our compliance.
Or a small booklet of what.
Yes, booklet, brochure. Yeah, absolutely.
That would be great.
Okay.
And, so just Maasi, Joe, for opening the door for things that weren't previously mentioned. Just in thinking about some of the discussion, if I can make a plug for those older names or more original names, I got to thinking. I grew up with the area where the Marine Corps base is, thinking of it as NICTAMS, right? I still will refer to that area sometimes as NICTAMS. But it meant so much to the community to be reconnected with the names Magua and Saban and Fabing, right? And so, obviously, what the community feels is important, and places like GPT, SHPO, or the Commission Fino Tomorrow, who does have a place names committee as well. There is so much value in returning to those older names. So if I can just put an extra plug for considering that, and maybe having some of the newer names that we've gotten used to, like Marbo K, right? It's not really Marbo. to consider what might have that deeper, longer term value to the community.
Yes, actually, so I'm gonna credit Ms. Adrienne Roselle. So she's actually looked into that. A lot of our forest enhancement sites are actually based on the older place name, Agua, Kaiguat. So we already have Sabanan Fadak in our lexicon, right, with our burial sites. And Magua, we have an actual monument for that. Magfog will be forthcoming. The Texan will be forthcoming. You know, so we are very sensitive to that, and we'd like to work with, you know, obviously the parties and kind of keeping a constant reminder that these older place names have value. It's like the soul of, you know, the land that we sit on. Yes, it is Camp Ross, but it was, you know, at a deeper level something else before in the past. And people still value those older place names. So really appreciate you kind of reinforcing that notion that we should be in many of our work products, many of our interpretive signage, many of our public information material, recognition of those older place names. So really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, that's it. So we have a summary and then closing comments. So I think we've kind of already summarized a little bit of this. You know, we still have a lot of work with the public access plan/program, improving the process. You know, we owe the SHPO some information on our process with NRHP, and we owe them some reports that are, you know, like I said, we have a lot of stuff they you know, were flooding into us, and now it's going to flood into his office, hopefully, in the near future. Looking forward to the next year. These are some of the consultations that we expect. Of course, additional forest enhancement. P104, now that was the areas of P103 that were de-scoped and now put back in. So P104, we're going to revisit that area. P745, of course, some of the reports of the work that was carried out. You should expect some of those coming through your office for consultation. P608 is in the near future, and wrapping up the NRHP. Hopefully we'll get those last 4 contracted before the end of this fiscal year. That's the plan.
Hey, what's the status of this table?
Well, it's part of the 19.
Yeah, it's part of the 19.
Yeah, it's part of the 19, but yeah, we'll see. We're gonna see how that goes. Park Service isn't thrilled about it.
The keeper's office is not, has no intention of putting this table on the register. It doesn't meet their requirements. If they said if it was in the same building that it was the event really happened, then maybe, but even then it would be a hard sell with them. It's because it's a piece of furniture, it's not a place.
Well, but it is an object, and objects are, they are acceptable. I think the problem he said with objects is they have that stipulation of they have to be in the original place.
Yes.
And also, they have to consider other meetings that happened during that time frame. And is this a prime example of what came out of that, or is this, you know, so we're not sure. We're gonna go look through it again.
We're gonna make best efforts, right?
We're still gonna submit it.
Yes, we're gonna submit
We
it.
haven't had it officially rejected.
Now, the fallback position is, could we list it on the Guam register?
That's what I was just thinking.
You could.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some significance and value to, you know, kind of elevating the recognition of this table. You know, every time I sit around it, I'm looking at who's whose chair am I sitting in?
I look at that photo all the time. And you know, we are them.
Yes.
In a way.
What was the original location? Where did that meeting take place?
It's over by the McCool School, isn't it? Somewhere in about where I work is where I was thinking.
I thought it was in this area, but in a different spot.
I'll have to read the
Yeah, we'll have to look at the nomination.
I don't think we'll get it back. We don't want to give it away. We like it here. We like utilizing it. But yeah, we're still going to submit it. They could still reject it. But you know, we put in the work, so we'll see what we can do.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so next workshop, any public outreach. Last year I had a goal of having the workshop in January. Quickly that was shut down. We'd go with February, and then we had delays for various reasons, and we ended up with May again. Do we just accept it that it's May, or do we shoot for an earlier?
I think because I want to consolidate all the PAs into one day, and we can just discuss all of that. I mean, for now, we can placehold May, and maybe we'll have a full day, and the afternoon would be dealing with the PAT and the 26th, hopefully.
Is the length of the workshop still, of value to the parties?
Absolutely.
Like this half-day format
Yeah.
is still good? Okay.
It's quite a lot that we packed in.
Yeah.
After 4 hours, you're.
Yeah, we're wiped out.
So I don't know what the time frame of the other meetings. I don't know, Naomi, Aaron, if you could email the link to those meetings.
Well, there isn't actually, is there a meeting in the 2008 programmatic agreement? Is
There's
there-
a requirement.
There's an annual meeting in there, right? So, to the best of my knowledge, I have never had one myself.
I was curious because somebody was like, oh, well, we don't have that meeting, and I looked at the PA.
We've had
Yeah, it is a
sensitivity
requirement.
map meetings is what.
Right,
has
but
happened.
this is with the
Yeah.
parties, so.
That'll be
then-
on Aaron's shoulders too.
So
And then the
add it to the list there.
Yeah, add it to everything else is, yeah.
Right, Aaron, yeah. How hard is it gonna be? So, and then the PAT meeting, we had one that was an hour, 40 minutes, give or take, where we went over the data and we set targets for the next year for accomplishments.
So it's conceivable to have multiple PA meetings in a one-day timeframe, maybe over a two-day period.
We covered 4 years of programmatic agreement for testing and training in that 40 minutes, 1 hour. So, feasibly, if they're all, continuing to stay on target with all the reports, then it would be less time.
We can target for me.
All right, do we go to closing comments?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we go in kind of reverse order with this. Do we still have ACHP on the line? Okay, so Alexis, if you want to give some closing comments, you've got the floor.
I don't have anything specific, I guess, to this consultation. Again, happy to listen in and hear the concerns. And just, I guess, since our staff has decreased a lot, I know we're not able to be as involved. And so it's good to just kind of hear what's going on. I did just want to check, since I have people here, because of changes of who's around and who's not, just wanted to make sure, or was wondering if the ACHP's letter with questions about the 2026 PA was received. We sent it a couple months ago. I just want to make sure that there aren't any issues as that PA goes down the line when it comes to needing to consult with the advisory council.
Alexis, this is Naomi. Hello. And Aaron Parker is also in the room. So there was a 105-day public comment period, and in consultation, I know JRM and SHPO wanted to have that public comment period before sending the draft to the ACHP for participation. There is a letter en route, I believe, for signature. I see nods to the ACHP. I will be putting that package together as soon as I see that signature dry into the electronic portal that you have at ACHP. So I might reach out just to make sure I have that package together. So that should be forthcoming. I was hoping that it would be today or before, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I do believe there's also a consulting or concurring party that needs to be invited, so that's mentioned in the letter. And then your concerns, when I saw them, were that, if there's going to be a new PA, that the 2008 PA needs to be retired. So I do believe that that's covered in the missive to you about the sort of the seamless coverage, no gaps that JRM and SHPO hopes for. So
Okay, that's really good to hear. And I'm not sure if I'm even going to be the person that's working on it, but obviously I'll, because of my background knowledge, I'll be, if you want to copy me on that, just to make sure I can let people know what it is.
I will
That would be
indeed.
helpful, but no, that sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you too.
Okay, thank you. And then, I don't know what I did on this slide, it's completely out of order. So if we could get the closing comments of National Park Service next, if we still have Elaine on the line? If you have any, oh, she's gone. Okay, so then we could go to GPT. Joe, if you want to give any comments?
I think this was a good meeting. I am hopeful. I won't be here next year to find out if everything in the parking lot was done, but we'll find out one way or another. And again, thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me over the years, over the decade. And I wish everyone well.
Department of Internal Affairs?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Hey, Patrick?
I'm good.
Okay. Any DOD last?
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to participate. This is very educational. Thank you.
I'll make a quick comment. So I'm new to the team, and I just appreciate you all being here and letting me kind of join this process. And it's been really cool for me, from a uniform guy who doesn't have a lot of the cultural and natural resources background, to come to Guam and to see like this relationship actually working. And I know there's challenges, whether it's working or not working, but from my perspective, at other bases and stations and locations, this doesn't exist in this capacity. And I think what's happening here is being done very well. And I've seen it from the team that I'm just so blessed and fortunate to be a part of, that they care, right? It's a lot of them are locals here, and they care about this deeply, and it's being communicated well to the military side and translated well and working together. And obviously there's challenges as we kind of come together with these different mission sets, but it's been really eye-opening for me to see this relationship and to kind of help be a part of it for the next several years to kind of continue to carry that forward. Thank you.
I'll pass it.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I really appreciated the discussion today and all the updates about the things that we're doing to try to be good neighbors, good residents, good stewards of the natural and cultural resources of Guam. I don't have past meetings attended to draw comparisons, but I'll take your word for it that this was a good one. I sense that we're doing our best to be good partners here. I understand that this could, by nature, be adversarial, and we can't let it be like that. We've got to find a way to work together. I also appreciate that we didn't shy away from the difficult discussion up front about what is not working, and I really appreciate your candid comments about the public access plan. Aaron mentioned that why we're here. We're here to defend the homeland, and that's the people, that's the land, and that's the culture. We can't do that by locking a third of this island behind impenetrable reservations and isolating that land and the places and the history and the culture that it's on that land from the people. We just can't do that. That's unacceptable. The Admiral is fully aware that we owe better. As your Department of War, we owe better to the people of Guam, and I'm confident that we will do better. But again, thank you to everyone who attended today and participated.
I just want to make a quick add here, on a more personal note. Joe Kinata has been kind of a fixture of our our annual workshops, always our North Star, and always very quick to provide words of wisdom. He's one of our leaders, thought leaders from our heritage management perspective, and he's been a very strong advocate for that. I consider Joe one of my mentors and obviously a friend. So Joe, thank you very much for all the years that we've worked together. I don't have anything, kind of fancy to present to you, but just these words that you meant a lot to me personally, as as a person who I respect very much, and all the years of providing service to the Department of War, and just running into different people, but you most especially have made a mark on my career, made a mark on me as a person, as a man. So very much appreciate everything that you've done throughout the years. Serving Guam and obviously reminding us who work for the Department of War what we're protecting. And so thank you very much for that. That's all I have to say.
That concludes the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Could I also oblige folks if we could just take a photo with Mr. Kanata?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.